Welcome to the BJJ Executive Podcast, episode 11. I'm your host, Dave Kroll. And just kind of getting into it this week, kicking off with a couple of administrative items, some housekeeping items. First and foremost, I want to give a big, warm shout out to my buddies, Steven, Ike, Josh, the Mountain Man, and JP for their launch of now a very successful and enthusiastic podcast called Jesus and Jiu Jitsu Podcast. It is a follow-on to their also equally successful Jesus and Jiu Jitsu initiatives. If you hadn't heard of them, then please go check them out. They're on Instagram, they're on Facebook, they're all over the place, and they've just launched another podcast, which is on Spotify, Apple, all over the place. But I'm a huge fan. They're good friends of mine. They're training partners, and definitely want to do everything we can to support them. Following on from last podcast as well, just a reminder, if there's anything that comes up during the podcast that you want to talk about, that you want to hear about, that you want to dig into with future guests or whatnot, follow the trend and send me a message on Instagram at BJJ Executive. You can also send me an email from www.bjjexecutive.com. Just contact me there or grab me in the gym. I'm almost always there, and we'll make sure to get that stuff on. But I really do appreciate those that have taken the time to reach out, all the encouraging words, all of the feedback, and a huge shout out to my buddy G, who has given me a lot of good feedback in the background. We're going to get him on at some point if I can talk him into it, and we can take it from there. But diving in this week, I just feel like the need once again to start things off, just like I always have, with a huge and in the most sincere form possible sense of gratitude. Because everywhere I've looked this week, that's all I've seen. I just came from the mats today. I was with this week's guest, Westin, Vance. We just got done training at the noon class, and everywhere I looked, man, I saw smiles. I saw reminders of why I do jiu-jitsu in the first place. And the only thing that came to mind as I got ready for this is that I just want to express to everybody how much it means to me for you guys to be a part of this with me. I am honored and thrilled, honestly, to be a part of your jiu-jitsu journey. And like I always say, I welcome you to mine. This is a part of it. And I hope that this podcast provides the supplement you need to enhance the longevity of your time on the mats, the efficiency and the enjoyment that you can get out of it. It's immeasurable. And I hope this helps you. So getting into it, this week's guest, my buddy, a guy that I've been trying to get on for quite some time. And as we've done a little prelim work on what we're going to go into today, I mean, something that I have found quite fascinating. BJJ black belt at the 5 location here in Highland Village, and a friend of mine, Westin, Westin, or Wes, I don't know.
Or Wes.
Or Wes.
What's up, Dave?
What's going on, man? Thanks for making it out, bro. We've been trying to get this on.
Yeah, man. It worked out when it was supposed to. So.
I guess. It worked out after I canceled on you twice. So
hey, I told you before, but I was 5 minutes later, I was about to cancel both of those anyway, so it was a welcome.
That is not normal for me, man. The last, so I guess what ended up happening, and of course, like, this is going to be weird for people that listen to this in the winter, but we are in spring and it's spring break. And of course, Father of the Year award here, I realized it was spring break about 48 hours before we decided to take a trip. And so you were coming by on a Friday, and then of course we were leaving on a Friday. So it was an inevitable conflict, but appreciate you being flexible with me.
My pleasure.
So Dallas Open, I guess a couple weeks ago, man, I saw you out there coaching away and competing as well, man. Good experience for you?
Yeah, I felt like I made a lot of mistakes, but at this point in my jiu-jitsu career, I'm just I've never cared less about the result. I'm just trying to focus on my performance and doing as best I can, and getting after it as much as I can.
Did you do Austin?
I didn't do Austin, but I did Waco.
I remember seeing you at Waco.
Yeah.
I remember seeing you down at Waco, and I was like, I came in, and I think as I came in, you were in the middle of one of your matches, and I was like, super jealous, dude, because the way you compete is just like you train in the gym. And I'm like, I want to be like that one day, where I can just go out there in the rounds that I do, I don't even know if you won or lost it, but like, I was watching you roll, and you're just like in your element, man. It's just another round, and
yeah, I mean,
intense, technical, all that good stuff, like that's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just, that's the way I want to be when I go out there. I feel like I go out and feel like, like the Tin Man or something.
No, I mean, I deal with nerves like anybody else. And at Dallas, as a matter of fact, I got tired and I made mistakes, and I didn't even know what the score was, and made a lot of errors. But the only way to fix that is to get out there as much as you can. And I used to put a lot of pressure on myself, and like I couldn't sustain the defeats. Like the defeats were too devastating, and it was too emotional to go out there. And really, when it's like that, even when you win, you're putting pressure on yourself because now you don't want to go out there and lose. It's just you're gonna lose either way. You're either gonna break the winning streak or you're gonna lose 2 in a row. Like one of the most impressive things to me actually is some of these guys that lose like 10 matches in a row and they just keep doing it, and I don't know if I could do that. You know, but so that's been the biggest thing, being at Double Five, and the support that everyone has. Like no one cares. It's all about doing your best and fighting with your heart. You know? And there's something that's liberating about that. And at the end of the day, no one cares about you like that. No one's gonna count your losses and your wins, and no one cares. So.
When you see somebody you're training with, and you don't even have to have a big team to do this, but when somebody comes and goes, I won't say the person's name, but like at Waco, it was the first time I'd competed in a long time. And I'm in the bullpen, and one of our training partners goes out and came back really quick, and it wasn't good. And there was a comment like, well, that ended quick. And I just there was a sense of relief. Not that I was happy that it was a bad loss, but it just seemed more normal, because dude, you don't win everything in training. You shouldn't anyway. And, everybody wants to go out there and have a good performance, but man, sometimes the pressure's on, bro.
I think I'm not sure if it may even be like a difference between like American culture and like Brazilian culture, or maybe I'm misreading it, but I always got in our culture, it served us well, but like we are winners. Americans are winners. We will not tolerate a loser. And we study, I read books about Relentless, about Michael Jordan and Kobe. And so you're learning about these outliers, but I think an unintended consequence is that so many people don't ever do it in the first place because they're not going to be the best. If you think about how people come up through college sports, we go as high as we can go, and then once we can't anymore, then we usually stop. And that's unfortunate, I think. And if you look at Brazilians, it's mainly they're so much more passionate, and maybe that's why Americans will be out more gold medals in the Olympics. But for us common folk, the average person, I think focusing on doing your best and being proud about that and not being result oriented is gonna help you longevity. I mean, how useful are all that information if it just stops you in your tracks and you never go?
Yeah, it's a tough balance, man. Because I heard a teacher that I had once, and was, what he would always try to preach is like, dude, you just have to divorce yourself from the outcome, which I can see the benefit of that, but there's also kind of a slippery side to that as well, where you could just be like, I'm divorced from the outcome. I'm good. I'm behind. I give up, You want to win, but at the same time, you don't want to have a freaking pity party all day, because
that's true. And it's not black and white. I'm not saying don't care about what's happening. Of course we care, but I try to care with everything I have in the preparation, and I'll obsess and care and overthink and allow myself to do that in preparation. But when it comes to going out there and letting it rip, it's almost like that's the river card on a blackjack table. Like, it's already happened. You know what I mean? And we're just showing our cards now.
Yeah, it's a good way to look at it, dude. I like that one, man. Showing your cards. Yeah, well, for what it's worth, man, when I walked out there, I was like, I hadn't seen you compete yet. I've seen you several times since then, and I was like, damn, dude, look at Wes, man. He's getting after it, dude. It doesn't seem like this dude cares one way or another. This might as well be, back in Highland Village. I found that because we were in Dallas and because it was kind of home turf, I guess you could say, I had a hard time, man. Like I let myself get behind the schedule that day. I didn't prepare my bag the night before. My food was off, and I had an adrenaline dump that I hadn't experienced in years that left me on a knee, man. It was, I don't want to say unreal as much as it was unprepared, but I didn't experience that in the last 2 tournaments because I traveled, and I felt like the night before, man, dude, I was locked in, dude. I knew what time I was going to eat. I knew what it was going to be. I knew how I was going to make it. I woke up on the morning of the tournament in Dallas, and I'm like, oh man, what time am I going to leave? Like, what time am I actually going? You know, I was just freaking lost, man. It was lack of discipline. I was so disappointed, you know. But like you said, like our teammates, they're super supportive. Anthony was in my corner. I got home, I lost. I'm sitting there. Oh man, I should text Anthony and tell him I'm sorry, dude.
No.
I was being such a freaking. James Faulkner actually gave me the best advice, man. And typical James, he's like, I'll give myself until Monday to mourn. And then it's over. And I'm like, that's good advice, bro. Because
I think y'all are all taking it way too seriously.
You're probably right.
I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
There's no scholarships getting handed out at brown belt, man. I mean, like, this is you're right. But you know how it is, bro. It's competitive.
Yeah. The way I see it is, it's not. Of course we can get really hurt. We're trying to break bones, you know, but it's not the same. You know, if I've competed in MMA, or Victor, my teammate, he's about to fight in the UFC next weekend, so I guess he'll have already fought by the time this is out. Those are real stakes, man. That's real stakes. That's different.
Yeah.
You know? So going out and doing a jiu-jitsu match, like you know, everyone loves to roll, everyone loves to train, everyone loves to roll, and but not very many people like to compete. Well, like, what really is the difference unless you're worried about what people think? That's
a great point, man. You know? And that's exactly it, isn't it? Because there's no physical harm. I mean, like, you could get hurt, obviously, but I mean, that's not the attritor, right? Mm-hmm. It's people that are afraid of what the outcome's going to be, and not, you know,
and worried about what other people think.
100%, dude. Me, myself included. I tell them, don't do it, don't worry. And there I go. If I'm, my wife was watching, oh my God. But
I've lost more matches this year than in any year in my jiu-jitsu career, and I don't think a single person knows or would hold that against me. Nobody. It's so a true. Ridiculous thought in your mind. You're going to, everyone's going to think I'm a loser. No, man, that's not reality. That's all in your head.
Yeah, no, it's very true. Very true. Well, it's good to see you on the mats today. I mean, we'll get into, you know, some of the stuff that you're doing at night as well, but, it was good to see you out there today. We had a good training session. We had a ton of black belts on the mat, and as always, it was a freaking war, man. I mean, you were more the referee today, I suppose, than the warrior. But it's always fun to train with you, bro.
Thank you. Likewise.
You want to get into it a little bit?
Sure, man.
So I always try to get as prepared as I can for these and get as much information as I can, you know, without, you know, sort of spoiling it for myself. It's always a tough one, man. I don't even know where you're from. Like, did you grow up in Texas or I know you're in Texas, but I mean, aside from that, I mean, take me back a little bit.
Yeah, I grew up in Texas. I guess since preschool or first grade, somewhere around there, but I was actually born in St. George, Utah.
Okay.
Pretty close to Las Vegas.
Why in the world did you leave St. George, Utah, dude? I mean, whoever brought you here, you need to have a long conversation. I'm sure there's a ton of stories.
I respectfully disagree, but no, St. George is amazing, but it's kind of a retirement community.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was at the time. Now it's grown a lot, and it's different, and it was cool living close to Vegas. I got to see that when I was young and stuff, but it kind of, I think that there's more for me out here where we have so many people and so many things going on.
Do you still have family out in Utah?
Yeah, we're all divided up between Texas, Utah, and Missouri.
Okay, that's cool. What part of Missouri?
Oh, small town called Gallatin. I think there's like 400 people there.
Yeah. I was just where is that in the state? Out of curiosity.
No idea.
No idea, dude. I'm from St. Louis. That's why I ask. People ask me, like, what's it like being from Missouri? I'm like, I have no idea.
Well, you're from Missouri and you've never heard of Gallatin.
I'm from St. Louis, man. That's like, it's in the state of Missouri, but I know nothing else about that state, you know, other than it gets small quick, man. You know, it gets small quick. Cool, man. So you basically grew up in Texas, and for all intents and purposes,
I'm adopted.
You're an adopted Texan. See, I was like, I guess more of an outcast. I was born here, and then I ended up going away, and I come back, but I get to claim the pride of being a Texan, you know, even though, you know, I never took the Texas history classes that you probably were forced to take and everything. So I guess I do know that you ended up in college in Hawaii for some reason. I mean, was that something on the West Coast that kind of pushed you out that way, or like, you know, I don't want to skip too far ahead.
Yeah, all my friends were going to school, you know, all the big universities in Texas, and I got accepted to some of those, but I got a random small like academic scholarship, probably just to get people to get out there. And yeah, I wanted to go. In retrospect, I'm happy I did, because college, I've never once used my degree. So that's cool with me. So I'm glad I got an experience out of it.
Pretty common story. Before we get into college, man, I mean, did you grow up? I mean, like, obviously, I know you as this big Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy. You're a great black belt. You've been a big mentor in the gym. You're a leader in the gym. We'll get into it. I mean, you've got other things that you're actually working on from a leadership perspective right now in the gym. But like, I mean, how did you get into this? I mean, were you a wrestler in high school? I mean, what was your sort of on-ramp?
Yeah, I wrestled in high school. I wasn't particularly good, but still 4 years of wrestling. I was a captain on the team my junior and senior year. I think because I didn't wrestle as a kid, if you're not wrestling, there's two kinds of wrestlers in high school, the ones who started in high school and the ones who are child wrestlers.
Yeah, man.
So it was hard for me to ever beat any of them, but I developed
there's not that many in Texas.
I guess I would call it defensive wrestling because I'm getting shot on by these amazing wrestlers and learning how to deal with that. And then, yeah, I walked into a jiu-jitsu gym in 2007.
Really?
That was my...
Were you still in high school then? Or?
Yeah, I was still in high school. I actually messed up my wrestling because once I started doing, I was a big fan of Matt Hughes. I mean, it's funny to think about now because I was this big wrestler guy. And so I was actually kind of like anti-jiu-jitsu even though I did it, but I thought wrestling was everything.
Well, dude, if you like Matt Hughes, man, I mean, he was the anti-jiu-jitsu guy. Like,
it breaks my heart to say that
really good at it.
Yeah, and I rooted for Matt Hughes against Royce Gracie.
Yeah,
and like in retrospect, like now
it was new versus old, you know.
Yeah, but even now, now I have gone full circle and. But
yeah, I remember that, man. I mean, I have nothing but respect for Royce and the Gracie family and all of that, but like. Even you know where I was at in life back then, I remember like, why in the world did Royce Gracie take that fight? You know, like why would he have done it? I know, but dude, I mean, like the brand equity and everything. They were still in that legendary status.
Yeah.
And of course now we know because like training is more efficient now and knowledge is more, you know, more of a commodity almost. It's like, what can you do with the knowledge that you get? And so. I mean, dude, he's got 2 decades of, you know, he's given up on the guy and then all of these other skills that Matt Hughes is, of course, at the peak, Olympic level, probably in some of them, you know, not to mention making it a profession. And dude, I mean, but anyway, that's a whole different story. But that was a fun time, man, for if that was kind of like your on-ramp, I guess, then that's a pretty good example to be set, somebody like that.
Yeah, it was a good time. I missed those old school UFC fights when they were 3-4 months apart. And I'd have all the friends in my house, and yeah, I mean, it's hard to even remember all those memories. I just thought I wanted to be an MMA fighter. We did Muay Thai and wrestling, and then I reluctantly did jiu-jitsu.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
There was there's a channel on YouTube. I hope I'm saying that right. Channel, I guess. They've got a bunch of different old UFC fights on there. But it's Bosnian. And so everything is in Bosnian, if that's even their language. And I was watching, for some reason, I wanted to watch Tito Ortiz and Ken Shamrock. It was like UFC 61 or something. So this would have been 2006 when Matt Hughes was going crazy. I mean, I don't remember when he fought Royce, but so I ended up watching it and all the commentary was in freaking Bosnian, dude. That's how bad I wanted to watch it for some reason. I think it was Chaz that was kind of, he had rekindled that. He was talking about his Huntington Beach days and everything. And so I'm like, man, I want to get back into that.
I think we can find you some better streams.
Well, somebody hook me up, man. I mean, send me a message or something, or just slip me a little yellow sticky, if you will, you know, so that I know where the knowledge is at. That's what I found, and that's what I guess I just turned the volume down. I was just up in, as I mentioned, I'm from St. Louis, and I was just up, and I was talking to my brother. My brother was a really good wrestler in St. Louis, and now he's got young kids. One kid's my nephews, obviously, and one's 10 and one is just turned 6. And he's sitting there talking about, and of course I've been down here in Texas, and he's like, yeah, I don't know if we're going to get him into wrestling this year or next year. You know, I'm like, he's 6 years old, dude. Like but that's what you do there, you know, right. You start then. And he's like, well, it'll just be like, they'll just work the basics. You know, they'll just work the basics. It'll be an easy one for him.
I think the reason, my theory is because we have track and field in the wintertime when football's not going.
When football's not going, football being the definitive term, you know.
Well, I think that's the same more or less anywhere, but you don't have, you have track and field outside. Up north, it's too cold. They got to go inside and they wrestle.
I guess so, man. I guess so. Well, it
gets
that's
cold
my
in Texas,
theory. Dude. Oh, it's a good theory. I just think it hasn't made it down here yet. And having gotten in kind of like a little insight into the like politics within high schools, because my son, you know, who's graduating this year, wrestled, and I was on the booster club and whatnot, and I just saw how the money flows, dude. the money that goes into football, I mean, literally could is the size of a third world economy. I mean, it's nuts.
I mean, that's what pays the bills too, though.
100%. Like, I get it, dude.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. It's Texas.
We had great weight equipment because of the football players. We had all of our, it was all trickled down.
Dude,
to
our football players, you can't, like, a wrestler can't go work out with the football guys. It's like this special place, this special room, this special stuff. And I'm sure we get like hand-me-downs and residuals.
Ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, dude. I don't mind saying it either.
We got to use all the football stuff.
Yeah, we did too when I was growing up. That was like, that's where we worked out. We went in there and we're like, whatever. I've got freaking algebra with you, dude. You don't scare me. You're a football guy. I'm a wrestler, whatever. Cool, man. So when you were, so you're a big wrestler. Were you looking to go out of state? Were you looking to get out of here? Were you looking to, or did this offer out in Hawaii just end up being the best that was available?
Yeah. I mean, I applied to a bunch of colleges, got this random offer to go to Hawaii, and that was basically it. I knew that if I didn't go, I was always going to think about what would happen if I went.
Yeah.
And then, I had the idea of wrestling in college. But once I had discovered Jiu Jitsu and I started getting on the path training, then I just kind of wanted to do that. That's not in school. So we went out to Hawaii.
That's crazy, man. Were you in mainland? Were you in Oahu? Or?
I was in Oahu at Hawaii Pacific University.
Okay. I'm somewhat familiar with it. I was like...
It's famous for cheerleading.
Is it?
And nursing.
Really?
And like their marine biology. So not very useful for me, but it was fun.
What were you studying?
I studied international business.
International business at Hawaii Pacific University on a full ride scholarship.
But they had a good. I studied Mandarin for 2 years, and then ended up. I'm sure we'll get to it, but I ended up doing a study abroad program in Taiwan. So I made the most of it.
Yeah. So were you training jiu-jitsu in Hawaii?
Yeah, I actually. It's funny. I have old pictures. I didn't know really what I had. I trained at a few different gyms, but my favorite time was in Haleiwa town on the North Shore. It's pretty far, but I would train at North Shore BJJ, which is run by Mike Fowler, who was he was one of the first big American competitive black belts. And while I was there, Jeff Glover was there the entire time.
Really?
And I didn't know who either of these guys were. I'm a blue belt, and I trained with them a bunch. And then, of course, years later, I look back at that and I just had no idea what I had.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, like, because my first gym was at Popovich's gym down in South Florida, and this was before Wagner opened his school, and Wagner was just he was wiping the mat with people, man. He was a brown belt at the time, and was just eventually got his black belt, and to me, he was just one of the good guys, of course I didn't know, and you see how people just develop these little trajectories for themselves. It does seem like there's some predictors in there,
A funny story, like obviously I mentioned that I was a fan of Matt Hughes, and I remember we were watching when he fought BJ Penn, I think maybe for the third time, and that's when BJ Penn knocked him out in the first round. And so, of course, I'm in Hawaii, so everyone is the town's shutting down for BJ. And but I was watching it on a stream that had a little bit of a delay, and I guess so I'm watching the fight, and I just hear the town erupt. I can hear my neighborhood erupt, like everything blows up. And in the time it registered in my brain what that meant, I went, oh no, and right then Matt Hughes gets knocked out. But
oh no, dude, put your bet on. Dude.
That's one of my one memory I have.
No, that's cool. I love the way I mean, Hawaiians are that way, man. Obviously, we've got a big Hawaiian in our gym. I trained with him today with Isaac, and freaking dude, the guy killed me. But he's got all that Hawaiian culture, kind of deep in his blood, and that's just something everybody I've ever met from Hawaii that is native Hawaiian or Samoan or whatever the proper nomenclature is.
Yeah, they're warriors, man. Like they all know how to fight. It's really crazy. Guys with no training can throw amazing punches, and it's crazy. I got in a couple of scraps in Hawaii, like just and it was like, they felt like trained fighters.
Yeah, it's so cool, man. I remember when around that time when BJ Penn was just the thing to talk about when he was going against Matt, and I don't remember any of his other really big fights, but they would, I don't know if they do this now anymore or not, but like how they kind of chronicle people's training and they follow them and stuff like that, and they just make it a part of the big pre-fight hype. And they've got BJ like running around the ocean floor with lava rocks and all this stuff. It's like, dude, how can you... If you're somebody that does that, man, what else could somebody do to compete with you? If you're willing, you're training with a whole new superpower at that point. So Hawaii for 4 years. I mean, did you do a 4-year program out there?
Yeah, I did a 4-year program out there. It took me 4.5 to graduate. I took my time my senior year. And then obviously I spent one of those years in Taiwan for the exchange program, which is actually kind of a scam, by the way, because this is very interesting. Like I went to, I met the counselor that's in charge of the international students. And I remember I'm sitting down with him and we're figuring out what credits I need for my degree and what's going to count for what. And he's like, okay, so what classes do you need? And I realized that he's writing down the classes that I'm going to get credit for while I'm in Taiwan. And this is my junior year in college, so I have like all my 3,000, 4,000 level classes. Mm-hmm. And I figured that out about the second one, that's what this was. So then I just started putting in basically the bulk of my degree, like the hardest classes like in there. And when I get to Taiwan, like they're not checking what I'm doing in Taiwan. So in Taiwan, I'm doing calligraphy with the big brushes, and I'm getting like credit for all these things. And that's funny. It's just it was a pass fail.
Yeah.
And so,
which is probably more like perfect attendance, not perfect attendance.
Exactly. So I come back with a 4.0 GPA, 10 classes, like, and yeah, it's just hilarious how school can be sometimes. I mean, go against the grain and you can find some ways to wake up their stuff, you know?
The truth is, man, I mean, like having a life experience like that, like going and living in Taiwan is probably 10 times more valuable than you could have gotten out of business law or whatever freaking credits you waived as a result, you know? Yeah. It's a struggle, man. I tried to teach my kids that too. And then I would tell anybody that I would talk to, like, you know, when you're going in, you're 18 years old, you're trying to pick what you're going to go do, like freaking international business. I mean, like that could be bad.
It sounded cool.
100%, man. Like I remember mine was like professional aeronautics. I'm like, oh, awesome. Cool.
Oh, that's not true.
Literally don't even know what that is.
I did want to work for like an NGO, and I started getting into that, and I worked for, like I taught English in Taiwan, and I mean, there's a couple like opportunities, and mainly I think I wanted to work for an NGO. I almost went to Myanmar, like, I would go to these think tanks, and I was young and
that's awesome, man.
Wanted to do a lot of those things, and but after a while, I didn't want to deal with the bureaucracy and security clearances and people worrying about what I'm doing in my life and things like that. So it didn't work out.
Once you see the other side of it, I mean, that can be somewhat off-putting.
Mm-hmm. I think they were dealing with like the Diaoyu Island dispute at the time. That was a big thing.
Yeah,
like
I mean,
Japan.
Dude,
I mean, it's still a thing, right?
Still a thing, a big thing.
And actually, I know all about Taiwan, and so I was like really involved. They would have these think tanks and it was cool seeing like generals and state representatives and stuff like talking and
That's
stuff.
Awesome,
it was really cool.
That was part of the program.
Yeah, I mean those would be happening at the government, like in Hawaii, like in the. Like something to do with the military or something, and so like my professors would say, hey, if you go to this, you'll get extra credit or whatever,
wow.
So, but that was fascinating.
Heck yeah, man.
And that's back in the day when politics was fun back then.
Yeah,
politics
exactly.
has changed since then. Now it's just, I don't know if it's social media or just things are different now, very like dogmatic, but back then, like I was just genuinely interested in that.
Yeah.
Now I look forward to the day, well, not really look forward to, but someday something's going to happen with Taiwan. And I'm going to have to listen to every guy with a cowboy hat and boots having an opinion overnight. And that's frustrating.
I know, man. Dude, it's a secret obsession of mine, man. It means a lot to me personally because my family is in Okinawa, which is essentially like, just a skip away from Taiwan. Mm-hmm. But it's also a big strategic spot for the U.S. military and for the Japanese military. And it's just proliferated a more heavy military presence in a place that I really personally don't want it to be, and if you think about it, just basic offense, like yes, I was in the military, but I mean, I was literally like a hole digger, dude. I mean, I have, I don't have a strategic bone in my body as far as military tactics go, but it doesn't take a general to realize that like, if there was ever any sort of like offensive strike, I mean, it seems to be that the place where all of the troops that you're going to be fighting against would be a great place to start, not some uninhabited island somewhere. So like the idea of there being an armed conflict there with two nuclear powers just scares the shit out of me, dude. Yeah. Like I hate the thought of it,
Yeah, and I mean that's why
it does seem inevitable.
I just reserved my opinion on a lot of things, like having known how complicated. Like I took time to study that and live there and talk to the people, and I understand their points of view and things, and so I have an opinion about it, right? But then like something like the Ukraine stuff happens, right?
Yeah.
So it's like I'm more aware of how ignorant I am to what's going on there. So like I'm not going to give an opinion. It's ridiculous to have an opinion about that. It's ridiculous to have an opinion about that, especially because you had no opinion before this year.
Yeah,
You
right.
what
I know exactly.
It's like, and so unless you have a reason to have an opinion, like,
yeah, it's tough, man, because like regardless, there is a humanity element to all of that, but it's funny that you say, you don't have to have an opinion, because that's something that some people that just doesn't register to some people. But you don't have to have an opinion. Like, yes, this is this major world event, but do you really understand all of the geopolitics of it? Do you really understand the history of it? If you go back to Taiwan, do you know anything about how Taiwan was formed, or what some of the separatists believed in or didn't believe in back in the day? Who supported what? Like, probably not.
I mean, I would argue with people in college about, they're educated college people, and they would say, like, Taiwan's a part of China, and you know what I mean? And it's like, man, I'm not even going to talk to you about this. Like,
yeah.
Go talk to Taiwanese people about that.
I know, man. I know. Well, I hope when the day comes, and I do think it probably will, that it ends with a peaceful note. But I'm not as optimistic as some people are.
Well, you didn't get on here to talk geopolitics?
That's true, bro. I didn't. So what was Taiwan just was it just a skip for you? I mean, like, this was something that was available, or was there something deeper that drove you out there?
Well, I took 2 years of Mandarin in college, so it was either China or Taiwan, and I ultimately chose Taiwan. I think one of the schools I was originally going to was in China. I didn't have an opinion at the time. Like
Beijing type China, or something like
one of the special economic zones. Yeah. Definitely not like deep in China.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately it didn't work out, and I ended up going to Taiwan, and I'm so glad I did. I loved every minute in Taiwan.
It's got that tropical feel. I think a lot of people feel like it is kind of like a little Western. I've never personally been to Taipei or anywhere else in Taiwan, but I mean, everybody that I've talked to that has been there. I had a buddy of mine that actually went out there and lived after just visiting, everybody says great things about it. Did you train jiu-jitsu there?
I did. So I actually have had 2 MMA fights in Taiwan.
Really?
I joined at my university. It's really cool in Asian culture because they have martial arts is like a big part of things. So like this big sports complex at my university. I was at Danjiang University.
It's ingrained, dude.
And it's like we had this giant martial arts academy that had the boxing program and judo and all these things. So in the university I was on, they didn't have jiu-jitsu, so I was on the judo team out there. I never competed for anything, just practiced, and I was on the boxing team. So it was just nice, like programs. I'm just trying to get after it out there. Mm-hmm. And eventually I got word of an MMA tournament, actually, where they're letting people fight multiple times in the same night. And it was crazy. They let women fight men, but they got to give up 2 weight classes or something. It was crazy.
Okay.
So I went out and ended up fighting, and I'd gone to a few jiu-jitsu gyms, and I was still a blue belt at the time, and I could just tap their instructors, like black belts. So I was like, okay, I don't think jiu-jitsu is really up to the level here in Taiwan, and so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do some MMA because I got wrestling, I got jiu-jitsu, and been training my boxing. Like, this is gonna be fine. But I won my first fight against a judo guy, and then the second fight, I took the guy down, and he just had an amazing guard and was able to keep me off of him and re-guard and kick me off. And I got dragged into a long fight, got really tired. He kicked me in the head a few times, and I was like, okay, well, this isn't going my way. I lost the decision. And I ended up talking to him after, and he trained at a place called Taiwan BJJ. I was like, wow, that's a straight-up jiu-jitsu school. Mm-hmm. So I went and checked it out. And, I mean, it was a No Vunyao black belt that taught the class. I guess I don't really know my history too well with these guys, but with No Vunyao, I believe it was Andre Pederneiras, and that's what everyone knows is Andre Pederneiras. But there's another like line there from Wendell Alexander, and like that's where he came from. Just this, and this guy was a Japanese guy, and Japan has amazing jiu-jitsu. So
that's interesting.
So I started training there and became really good friends with the guy who beat me. And I'm still friends with him to this day. He actually came to America, trained at Autos. He's a high-level guy now.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
Is this an American guy or a Taiwanese guy?
Taiwanese guy.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the extent of my jiu-jitsu training out there. And then I had revisited Taiwan maybe 6 or 7 more times over the years, and a lot of those times were specifically focused on training at Taiwan BJJ because I wasn't in school anymore, so I could just go train.
Yeah.
And like that was those are great times. We all went together up to we all traveled up north to Japan and did Asian Open. I believe that was 2014.
In Nagoya.
Yeah, in Nagoya. So that was a good time, and we would all basically compete under. I think they called it One Taiwan. So like any school in Taiwan formed it was in an association together for the tournament. So that was really cool.
I like the idea of the unity and that, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it just kind of gives you a little bit more of a sort of rally cry, I guess, as opposed to a bunch of disparate units. And
you're competing against Roberto Satoshi and like really good guys in Japan. So no one is gonna, you know.
I'll have to dig into that Novo now, like reference more, because ironically enough, it took a while for jiu-jitsu to kind of come on the scene in a big way in Okinawa. But that's one of the more established gyms that's there. And they've got like, you know, I think I've talked to you about the Carpe Diem gyms that, you know, Chaz and Kramer and I have talked about. But I don't even know the guy's name. Maybe I'll talk to you about that offline, but I wonder if there's something else there. If
my
just came up in Asia.
My instructor out in Taiwan, Makoto, he's a Japanese gentleman.
Is he?
And he,
this guy's Brazilian.
he moved to Brazil when he was 16. So he was close to the source, and then he came back to Japan, and Japan has great jiu-jitsu, and then he came down to Taiwan and basically built that team down there.
That's amazing, man.
And it was a lot of like expats and stuff, like a lot of French dudes, Americans. Like that's like when I would go to jiu-jitsu, you could tell that this was the spot. Like everyone was. I mean, I still think that. I mean, it was just that spot. That's the only good jiu-jitsu I found in the whole country. But
that's crazy. I'm sure it's changed since then. What year was that? 09?
2011 to 2014, probably.
Okay, yeah. Well, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, but 10 years, a lot can change, man.
But they had some very good guys. I mean, very, very good guys. Like high level guys.
That's amazing, man. It's funny that, like, you know, like that's the way the martial art traveled in the first place, you know. And so, you know, people go, you know, like you said, get close to the source one way or another, or the source comes to them, and then, you know, it evolves from there, man. And creativity and ambition and ingenuity go a long way. So eventually you went back to, sounds like you went back to Taiwan several times. Is this like a post Hawaii type of a thing, or was this like just while you're all the way out there?
Yeah. And,
what was the flight from Hawaii to Taipei?
Not bad, like 10 hours, 8 hours.
That's not good.
Well, I'm thinking about coming all the way from, I mean, it's on the other side of the planet.
It's true,
It
man.
Can't get much further unless you go to Australia.
Yeah, no, seriously.
But then I would go out there all the time. Those are my college friends. I was dating a girl out there, and she came with me to Hawaii and to Texas, and I was back and forth. And I went to, I ended up going back to Japan a couple more times, and we went just for vacation to Kyoto and Osaka and Tokyo, and Nagoya was for the Asian Open. And I forget the name of the town with all the deer.
Nara.
Yeah, Nara. That was very cool.
With the deer bow to you and stuff.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Did a deer bow to you?
Yeah, they're just, they're not bowing, right? They're just like,
don't ruin the folklore, dude.
Yeah, right. But then, and then I basically used it as an opportunity to travel to all these other places that I would never be able to travel to. Like I went to Australia.
Kind of like a headquarters for you.
Exactly, because it was only, I think I flew from Taiwan to Australia to Sydney, and then I one-way to Brisbane. And I had a friend from Texas who was teaching out in Brisbane randomly. So I was like, well, I'm going to come see you. I'm here in Taiwan. To me, that's close. Basically like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Like I'm never going to be over here. And I was young, and it was cheaper to travel back then. I would stay in hostels and just rough it. Like if I go to Australia now, I'm going to spend so much money. Yeah. You know, and because I'm not going to stay in a hostel, and I'm not going to be okay with no money in my pocket. I mean, I literally would spend all my money on traveling and just figure it out. Just whereas like now, like that's long gone. So.
What would be examples of a way to create money if you're in Australia and you have zero money? Provided they're legal.
Okay, so well, I'm gonna go to the illegal, but it wasn't me. Okay, my girlfriend at the time, she worked for China Airlines. Okay, she was a flight attendant, so she was flying to Sydney. Okay, and I had this friend in Brisbane. Okay, so she's flying to Sydney. That's a free hotel and the flight. So now I just need to fly with her, and I get to hang out with her for 4 nights. But all these flight attendants, and I'm gonna let you in on a secret about all these Chinatowns and stuff around here. All of these flight attendants hustling cigarettes.
Oh, really?
Right, yeah. And
like American cigarettes, Australian cigarettes, or what?
Whatever cigarettes, I don't know. They're going from one point to another, and if you're going to Australia, cigarettes are like $20 a pack, right? Because like,
so I know they have these huge like warnings on them. Death warning.
Yeah. You know, so like if you
you got to really want to smoke in Australia, dude.
So they would pack them. you know, like in their, I guess because they can get through security and stuff. And then it's so funny, like, so we land and we go to,
like a loophole that they would have closed.
We go to Chinatown in Sydney, right? And like, and then we go to this restaurant that neither of us have been to, right? And I'm like sketched out, right? And she's like, we go into this restaurant and like they can tell that she's a flight attendant right away, right? Mm-hmm. And they just usher her in upstairs.
Is that
like
right?
We're at a restaurant, packed restaurant, and we go upstairs and like this auntie sitting at a rounded table, everyone's smoking cigarettes, and she just puts them on the table and then they count out cash and give it to him. And I was
crazy.
like, this is happening all the time, and it actually is like everywhere. It's not just in Sydney. And I mean, it was a eye-opening thing. But
that's nuts.
Then
dude.
She got her per diem and making money on cigarettes. I mean.
It seems like this would be like such an easy loophole to close, and also so predictable. But like whatever, I guess that's
who knows. Maybe they're letting it happen.
Dude, they got bigger fish to fry than that.
I heard when the pandemic happened, I talked to her, and like she said that she. I was like, well, what happens now? You can't go to Chinatown. You got to stay. They said they send us food to our rooms.
Really?
So they do delivery with the food, and then they come and get the cigarettes.
That's crazy.
I've never told this story, and I'm telling it on a podcast.
That's a trip, man. I doubt anybody from the Australian.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it.
From the Australian authorities are going to be too keen on this anyway.
But no, other than that, teaching Jiu Jitsu lessons, and then for me, I was really lucky because there's such a high demand for English teachers in Taiwan.
Really?
That and it was like 1,000 Thai baht an hour, which is about $30 at the time. Mm. So and they don't care that if you teach English or not. They want your accent.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they don't care. The kid already knows how to speak English. They just want you to come talk to him and help him with his homework. And
got it. Be a native,
and they'll pay. Yeah,
a native A to B player. Just,
so
throw the ball back.
And that was almost a trap. I almost stayed in Taiwan forever because it was just too easy to do that. But there's nowhere to go from there.
You mean like there's just no like corporate mobility, or
you're just going to keep. There's no ladder. You're just going to keep teaching English, like, and you're not going to. It's not exactly what the dream career, but I mean, a lot of people do it. All those expats I was training with. They've been there, some of them 6 years, 10 years, 15 years, married a Taiwanese girl, just teaching English.
Boom, there you go.
But I think at some point you're going to, that's going to come to a head at some point, unless you're just passionate about teaching English. But then you're getting your certificates and getting more credentials so you can get a better English teaching job.
Yeah. I just like a great supplement.
People would ask me on the train, like, to teach their kid.
Really?
So it was like abundant work.
I wish it was like that in Japan, man. It kind of is. Japan has this program called JET. You familiar with this? Mm-mm. Oh gosh, I'm not qualified at all to talk about it, but I mean it's really well established, and so I know a lot of people that started their lives in Japan by just being a part of the JET program. Mm-hmm. And the only thing you need to do to qualify is be a native English speaker, basically, which check, and then also have a bachelor's degree. That's it. And I think that's more for immigration than it is for competency or qualification. Right. But the downside is you can't pick where you go. Right. So, that's awesome, man. I'll live in Tokyo. No, you're going to live in some freaking rural outpost, man, in a wooden house that's, you got, that's somebody's life, man. They want that, but like if that's appalling or off-putting to you, then dude, buyer beware, because that's probably what's going to end up happening.
I mean, when I was young, I was down. I almost did that. They have this like WOOF program, like it's the organic farming program.
Really? In Taiwan or in Japan?
It's all over the world.
Okay.
It's like WWOOF. Like, I don't know if it's still a thing, but you can go work on like a farmer's property with it, you know what I mean? And it's hit or miss, but people have some amazing experiences because they go stay in Japan, like in the countryside, like growing sweet potatoes.
That's awesome, man.
And you get a really authentic
win-win, man.
And sometimes they just love and if you're young, I mean, that's cool. I never did. I had a lot of friends who did, though. It seemed pretty cool.
It's a place where, like, I don't know if it's happening so much in America. I know it is to a certain degree, but like, well, actually, it's happening in a big way. I just don't know if it's such an epidemic in the States. But in Japan, the urban flight is huge, man. And I mean, there are literal ghost towns where people, like, as an incentive to get you to come to town, they will give you a house. Mm-hmm. Like, come live here. It's yours,
If I could do it all over again, I would have nenever been an exchange student. I would have been an international student for 4 years, and I would have been paid by the United States government and by the Taiwanese government cash. Like, all my friends, like, that were out schooling there.
This is a thing?
Yeah, it's a thing. I mean, your degree's from Taiwan University. I don't know what your accreditation is, but does anyone care?
No.
About it? I mean, does anyone care? Like,
not in 2023.
I mean, my school.
If it ain't Harvard, then it doesn't matter.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, in my experience, like, my stuff always stood off the page because, but really, like, it wasn't that strenuous.
Yeah.
I mean, but people see like, oh, well, he's had these experiences, like you said.
Yeah.
I think I just got lucky. I mean, unless you want to be a doctor or a lawyer or you want to go to Harvard.
It's totally different. Yeah.
Then that's different.
Totally
but if you're
different.
just going to college because you just think you need to go to college, then like go get something else out of it.
Whenever I'm like hiring somebody or looking to add somebody to the team or promoting somebody or whatnot, the people that have the, polished, shiny resumes, this is not meant to outcast them at all. Because a lot of times those, statistically, usually people are with that kind of background are really good, but it's not a predictor of success at all. Whereas if I get somebody that's had a little bit of some kind of a struggle, some form of resistance that they've had to overcome, like going and living in a totally foreign country or whatnot for a prolonged period of time, that is so much more valuable to me than seeing somebody that went to an Ivy League school. Because I've seen plenty of Ivy League guys that are just not washouts, but like, dude, I don't want to emulate them in any way, shape, or form, and I don't want my kids to look up to them, and I don't want, they're not heroes in my world just simply because of the education that they got.
Right. Well, you can't tell who got in because they were born in the right family.
100%.
Who got in
dude.
because of strenuous academics, and this is the cream of the crop. You can't
100%.
differentiate.
But yeah, dude, like there's like that's what they push on kids now, and luckily neither of my kids really cared. They're just like whatever. I'm lucky. I'm even thinking about college, and they fought their way through it and didn't get too wound up on. But I know other kids that are in our circle that they're like, dude, it's like fill in the blank college or else. I mean, I'm really banking on this or because that's kind of what people have told me I need to get. I'm like, dude, I feel so sorry for you. Come to Jiu Jitsu. Come to,
mm-hmm. Well, I mean, between the way I feel about it, and we can move on and get into this, is like I've gotten all of my entire career I owned because of the network in Jiu Jitsu. And really, school is all about the network. It's about meeting people that are going to help you out. I wasn't in a fraternity or anything, but I know that that's a lot what that's about. We train in Highland Village. It's a pretty well-off area. I trained in Keller and South Lake, and those places are very like high-end places. And the people that are training at noon on a Tuesday or Wednesday, like those are good people to network with. Man. It's like low-key, like the reputation that golf has, like there's the old stereotype, right? My kid's gonna be a caddy and he's gonna meet this person and then they're gonna hook him up with a job, right? Exactly. So like that actually is true in jiu-jitsu. Like it's not a cheap sport, and it depends on where you're at, obviously, but it's a great network, and you get so close to people because of the the physical contact, the trust, the going to battle together. Yeah, man. And I mean, I've had 3 different bosses that I met through jiu-jitsu.
That's crazy. Well, I guess then getting back, so obviously, man, we could pick on the, Japan, Taiwan. I mean, the being in an Asian hub and being able to travel like you did. I mean, like that's so cool, dude. Not many people get a chance to do that on the civilian side. I did it in the military side, and I was stationed over there, and I always I see the value in that because I know how big of a barrier it would be to go out there from Texas right now, to fly to Australia, dude. I mean, that's a commitment in and of itself, yet alone to actually enjoy it. But eventually you get back to the States. I mean, what was did you come back to Texas? I mean, you graduated from University of Hawaii or from Hawaii Pacific. Did you come back to Texas, or what'd you end up doing?
Yeah, so that would be 2014 about.
Are you you're a blue belt still?
No. No, I am a blue belt still, but I got my purple belt almost immediately. So actually, I'd already been training jiu-jitsu for like 7 years and had a lot of competition, but had jumped around to so many schools, no one was belting me. Yeah. And so I hate guys like you. And actually,
I'm like, dude, there's no way this guy's whatever belt he is.
Yeah.
I mean, you're like a high level wrestler. You've had a couple MMA fights, dude. You've been training all over the world. Yeah. Having to hold your own as a stranger somewhere in a jiu-jitsu gym is not easy.
Yeah. But when I came home, I was like, that was actually mentally, like, I realized I was training a lot back then, but this time I was, now I'd graduated college, and college got in the way of training, and I didn't have a car in Hawaii and Taiwan. It wasn't that easy, right? So whenever I came home, I said, finally, now I can focus on jiu-jitsu. Yeah. So I got a job at, I started working at a law firm, just answering the phones, drafting up documents, like pretty much busy work. And then I would train at night. And that's when I started training every day. And I remember I signed up for a bunch of competitions that year because I'm just ready to smoke all these blue belts. And my coach was like, no, man. And he gave me my purple belt. I didn't even have any stripes. And he gave me my purple belt right away. So, and then I was still pretty serious about competing. And I wanted, like, now I was excited because I got the degree and I have a job. And now I can just focus on my passion. And so I started like competing, and that ended up leading into the first like fight to wins and stuff. And how'd
you get into the fight to wins? I mean, this was to a lot of people, man, this is still kind of a mystery. I mean, it's nice where we're at and I know other friends out, like my buddy out in Colorado that I was telling you about. I mean, like they're really connected with this group and they'll bring their kids up through it and whatnot. But as a layman like myself, dude, I don't even like, I look at it like, dude, how do people find out about this stuff?
I have a personal relationship with Seth Daniels, the guy who started Fight to Win. He's out of Denver. And it's a real small niche.
So he's out of Denver?
He's out of Denver.
I didn't know that. Okay, cool. I just assumed he was in Texas.
I think he is. I could be wrong about that, actually. Okay. But I know he was. Actually, I could be totally wrong about that, to be honest. Yeah. But no, I think he was training at Easton's.
Okay, cool.
So, but I don't know. I have no idea. Seth, I don't know.
Huge caveat then.
But at the time, that was like when Fight to Win was brand new. I think I fought at Fight to Win 17.
Wow. What are they on now? 200 something? 250 or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
You did one recently too, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I was more serious about competing. I fought Fight to Win twice, and I lost to both my opponents in like really tough fights. And I was younger, so like that was more devastating at the time. Like I which is like really silly in retrospect.
You needed your black belt self to come in and give you a little bit.
I actually lost to one of Sam Snow's students.
Okay.
And then the other guy, he trained at Alex Martin's gym. Mm-hmm. And then I had found out later that they had both trained at the Pro Academy with Marcus Gonzalez. Okay. So I think it was the gun range at the time. So I found out that they had trained together, and that was the first time I got exposed to like this higher level of jiu-jitsu and this community and like the cross training, because I knew that one of them had talked to the other.
Okay.
Right. And so that's a problem.
And so you're in Keller at the time here in DFW?
I trained, so Peak Performance had 2 locations at the time close to each other. One's in Keller, and that's Paul Halmey's gym. And that's who I started with initially. But I trained actually under Juan Tatum, who has the Watauga location. Okay. And that's where that was my gym. Okay. And he's the one who would eventually give me my black belt. But at the time, I fought both these guys. Found out that there was this place called the Gun Range, and I knew at that moment after losing both those matches that if I wanted to be a serious competitor, I was going to have to step out and start cross training. I had to go to that place. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I just wasn't ready to make that commitment and sacrifice. And I basically willingly said, like, that's what it's going to take, and I'm not willing to do it. So I'm going to start figuring out the next step in here in jiu-jitsu, like maybe helping others, maybe coaching, just enjoying jiu-jitsu for jiu-jitsu, but I'm not going to focus on competition. So that was kind of like a weird period where I would eventually go on to get my brown belt, and I didn't compete much at all at brown belt, And so, that was kind of a weird period. And then it led up to whenever I met my buddy, Zach. So, Zach Taylor.
I mentioned Zach, man.
Yeah, extremely talented kid.
Absolutely, dude.
You
say he's a kid. How old is he?
He's 25? Not a kid. He's just younger than me. Anyone younger than me is a kid.
Well, he is young, though.
I think he's like 27. I have no idea.
Okay, cool. So he's not a kid. He's just
no, not at all. Although grown-ass man. But so I was, but when he was a white belt, I knew right away, like he checked all the boxes. Like I knew Zach was going to be good immediately.
Yeah.
So he has like college rugby experience, and like you would have a conversation with the guy, and it's like he just got it, right? Uh-huh. So he wanted to, drill and work and stuff, and then the pandemic happened. Well, actually, I'm off on the time here. He got his blue belt, and then eventually his purple belt, like quickly. I think he had a tournament at blue belt where he had 12 fights, and he just subbed everybody, like quickly, like with moves I didn't even know that he could do. He just was like, it was all over it.
Yeah.
So
I can empathize so much. I told a story about him on one of the recent podcasts because he had come. This is none of my business, but where is he? Like, why isn't he in the gym anymore?
I think he's handling personal stuff.
Just have
honestly,
cool.
That whole year that you saw us training, neither of us were working.
Yeah,
all we were doing was training.
Yeah, you just got to hustle now for a little bit.
Yeah, and
I get it.
If I was in trouble at that time, I know he was in trouble. So he's just handling business. He'll be
good
back.
For him, dude. That's the way the priorities should be. I figured as much, but because I hadn't seen him in a long time, he popped in the other day. And, you guys are in tote together, and then here comes Zach. And we hadn't trained in forever. And, dude, he just freaking ran me out, man. I'm like, head down. I'm like, damn, dude. And he goes, oh, don't worry, you really improved. I'm like, I'm thinking, okay, thanks, man. Because he's so good, man.
Yeah, he really is. So
he's so good.
So
anyway,
so the pandemic ends up happening, right? And then so all the gyms get shut down, and all I have is Zach and Caleb.
Okay.
So you know Caleb.
Yeah, I know Caleb. Yeah.
And so we're just drilling every day, and that was such a weird time in the world, and
yeah.
I didn't know if jiu-jitsu was ever coming back. I mean, like,
seriously,
it was a weird time, right?
It really was, man.
And
I don't know if real estate's coming back. We didn't know if toilet paper was coming back. I mean, imagine if
and they said, hey, we're going to open gyms, but you got to have social distance. I'm like, there's zero social,
I know, dude. This is literally like, passing out lollipops and sharing them. I mean, like, there is no...
We're sweating each other's eyes. You know
100%,
what I mean? Like, it's
bro.
terrible.
Yeah.
So me and him and Caleb are just drilling every day. And this is a couple years after that realization I had, that I needed to cross train. And so I was in more of a coaching role, but now I have this talented guy who clearly can go all the way to the top, right?
Yeah.
So
you still a brown belt back then?
I was. That's a good question. I think I was a black belt.
Yeah.
A fresh black. Yeah, I was a fresh black belt. Yeah, I just got my black belt maybe 6 months before the pandemic, I want to say.
Okay.
Could be off, but I think I was a black belt. So he says, he calls me one day, Zach calls me and says, hey, man, I need to tell you something. I'm switching gyms. Like, I have this, I'm on this path. I want to compete, and I'm switching to Formiga's gyms. And
how did he meet Formiga? Do you know?
I think the connection was through JP.
Okay.
I'm not entirely sure. Maybe you can ask one of them.
Gotcha.
So the switch and I'd never made a major decision like that so fast in my life. But the second he told me that, I said, I'm coming with. And I'm coming too. Yeah. Because I had already confronted this before.
Yeah, you're already grappling.
And now I have Zach, and now I'm going to lose Zach.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so, and I joked around with him. I was like, what, you think I'm going to let you just leave and get all good and come back and beat me up? Yeah, right, bro. I'm coming with.
Yeah, man.
So, and that had a lot of consequences because my old gym has an issue with cross training. It's a closed environment. And that is what it is, kind of an old school mentality. But so it came with a lot of consequences. Like, I had hundreds of friends that I've known for over 10 years that I'm not going to see anymore, because of, gym politics. Like, it feels kind of silly because we're grown adults, but
it's hard for me to imagine, it's hard for me to imagine that feeling right now, because I just haven't had to deal with it. But like, if I started the podcast off talking about like what a good experience today was. Like, it really was, man. I felt really good as I looked around. People are smiling, high-fiving, hugging one another. I mean, we're training, dude. This is what we do. It's how we have fun. I mean, it's such a big part of our life. And if suddenly that's kind of ripped around because of,
yeah, it's a tricky subject. And I mean, what are you going to do? Yeah. I had to do it, and I'm glad I made the decision. And so then we left, and that's maybe whenever we met, and Pedro was still there, Rodrigo and Formiga, and I remember being there. It was still coming out of the pandemic, and I just remember looking in the room, and there would be times where there was 5-6 world champions in the room, and then it's me and Zach, and I'm like, how did we get in here? This is crazy. So that's how we ended up at double 5. I could keep going, but
no, man,
that's basically the story up till now.
Do you think that there's any benefit for, like, I mean, forget about the gym owner for a second, but for the gym itself, do you think there's any benefit to closing off cross training?
No, there's zero benefit, and it just hurts. It hurts them the most.
Yeah. I'm trying to. I mean, that's
I could pontificate why people do that.
What would a hypothetical reason be? I mean, I can understand.
I think a lot of it's insecurity. A lot of it's worried about losing students. Yeah. There's this weird thing where people want to say that, like, oh, well, maybe you're going to train with your competitors, and we don't want to share some information, but that's all just going to hurt you in the end.
I can see that.
If you really think about it, it's all going to hurt you. And here's the thing. Your information's getting out, but the other information's not getting in. So you think you have this closed environment, but we actually know exactly what you're doing, who you are, what you're doing, and and it's not like they don't allow people to come train there. Yeah. So it is what it is. I think it's just I believe. I mean, I've talked to Formiga about it back in the day. That's how every gym was. Yeah. So there is like this old school mentality, but in today's world, no way. And also, I had a coach tell me one time, like, I was targeting somebody who was in the area who beat me in a tournament, and then I beat him. We had a little rivalry, and I was focusing a lot on him. And my coach told me, like, hey, don't focus on him. You're not in competition with him. You're in competition with the world champion. Like don't set your sight too low. And actually, like, the way jiu-jitsu works is you need everybody. You need everyone in town. So, like, these group trainings we do, these pro trainings, like, everyone coming together. You know, like, now I go to the pro training with Rodrigo and Jan Picapau and Carlos Neto, and we're all at different gyms. These guys are in the same division, you know, like, they don't care. Yeah. Because that's very short-sighted to worry about the match you may or may not have against each other. Yeah. But you're going to be better if you know, obviously if you train, like, you need each other. Yeah. And, I mean, Jan trains at Six Blades. Like, they could easily say, like, hey, dude, you don't need to go there. Like, and we could say the same thing, but those guys get it. Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's actually what Formiga stands for, is this open training. Of course, it's easy to say when you have such a good product. Yeah, I know. I guess. You know what I mean? So I guess, you know, it's tricky, you know. Somebody's got to set the standard, though. And like, if you're not, I mean, look, I'm not a gym owner. I'm not even a black belt. So, I mean, I'm not the one that would be making this call anyway. But I am trying to kind of play devil's advocate a little bit. And I guess I could see the perspective of from a competition. You know, I understand it. I don't know if I agree with it or not, but, like, you know, you could, you know, spill a little secrets, but it just seems like information is such a commodity these days. And whether it's specifically your information or somebody like yours, I mean, dude, everything is everywhere, and it's available, like, in more doses than you actually need. So it just seems like such a tough hill to climb. You mentioned when you were doing your fight to wins, you felt the need. You found out that your opponents were training at a different place, and you felt the need to get a little bit more, you know, you step your game up or whatnot, you know. Like, was it just that you felt their jiu-jitsu was a lot better, or what was the, I mean... At the time, I think because of the environment I was in, I was worried about them talking about, like, specifically, because one of them had already fought me, and now the other one's fighting me, and he gets to talk to him. It's like there's this open information. Yeah, yeah. You know, I was more caught up on the information at the time. Now, in retrospect, looking at it, it's just higher quality training. Like, there was, and at the time, I thought, man, if I did this different, if I did that different, I could have won that match. I can tell you now, after training with those guys, there was no way I was going to win those matches. Like, it just, and now being on the other side of it, like, I can see why, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's everything. It's just the rounds. We were talking about it today. You said you're getting tired, need to get better shape. And that's right. Like, man, it never gets easier, but when you get pushed to that, like, every day, like, you're not afraid to get tired. And, like, whenever you go to that place all the time, and then you find yourself going to that place, like, you just know, like, I can go there. Yeah. I'm not worried about it. There's no anxiety. That's exactly right, man. That conversation was a good one too. We had finished training, and, you know, you came over and made some comments, and I'm like, dude, the problem I've got, not the problem, but a major problem that I'm going to have to figure out how to circumvent, or how to surmount, is just a fear of gassing out, man. And it's a confidence problem. And you know, so your advice was, dude, you just got to keep putting yourself in the freaking pain cave, you know? Yeah. I mean, it's the fear of, like, you're going to get tired no matter what, but it's the fear of getting tired that's way worse than actually being tired. Yeah. That was the conversation. Yeah, no, it's good. But you looked really good out there. You feeling good, man, with your shoulder and everything? Dude, I feel like as healthy as I've been in a long time. I'm always a little skeptical. Like, which probably leads to more injury, you know, because you end up putting yourself in bad situations. But, dude, I feel really healthy. My hip's good. My leg's good. My shoulder's good. My neck's good. I mean, for a while I was like, dude, I just can't win, man. I'm like, my shoulder healed, which was a serious injury. And then I started having some major neck problems, which was like, went from an annoying injury to a worrisome one, you know? Oh, yeah. And then I had a little bit of a hip issue, and I'm like, dude, what in the hell is going on? Is this going to ever stop? You know, or is this just going to be the way it is? That's one of the cool things about jiu-jitsu, though, man. And I mean, anybody that's out there, everybody, and we can get into some of this on your side as well, but, like, everybody's going to deal with something like that. And I don't remember who told me this, but long ago, it was like, look, the way I want to train jiu-jitsu, forget about a competition, forget about winning, losing, or whatnot, but I want to be able to train every day, and I want to have the skill level and the ability mentally to throttle my jiu-jitsu to what I can do.
you know? So if all I got is 70% today, dude, then that needs to be good enough. And I want to be able to go out there and train 70%. That doesn't mean I'm going to win. Doesn't mean I'm going to freaking dominate or whatnot. But if like what you are able to go do on the mat is dictated by whether or not you could go out there and be the best person you could possibly be, like this is some kind of college sport and you got a window here or a season that I've like, I only have 8 matches left in my life. Dude, jiu-jitsu just seems like it's going to eat you up, you know?
Yeah.
And when I heard that, I'm like, that really resonated, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm very honest with people who are starting jiu-jitsu because I don't want them to quit. But the reality is like, yeah, it's going to break everything in your body. And you're going to be fine. Like your body's an amazing machine that it's amazing how it can heal and adapt and change. And I mean, I have 2 herniated discs. I tore both my AC joints.
I had no idea,
cuff
dude.
damage. I've tore both my LCLs, MCL sprains, meniscus tears.
What's so crazy about that is you don't seem like a guy like that. You see, like there's the stereotypical, and maybe it's not just wrestlers. There's the stereotypical wrestler look, right? A guy that's 5'2", weighs 275 pounds, looks like a D-cell battery, and then turns his whole torso like as one like a mechanical motion because their necks don't work anymore. They can't rotate their shoulders, you know.
Yeah.
But you move fluidly, dude. You seem like a healthy human being.
I mean, looking back on it, one of the most depressed I've ever been is when I hurt my back. I couldn't walk a block for 6 months. I had sciatica so bad that
what happened?
I used to throw a lot of flying submissions, and one day I landed real ugly on a flying triangle, and I couldn't get off the mat, and I thought that's when I hurt my injury. I thought it was an acute injury. Having gone through the rehab and learning what I know now, I believe that they were already herniated, and that was because I had nerve pain that I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
So people would pull my neck, and I'd feel like a shock down my body.
Really?
And now I know that what nerve pain is, you know. And so
that's a little frightening.
Actually this last year I had a tear in my lat and my whole shoulder seized up, and I could feel that I had excruciating pain down my arm, and I knew right away it was nerve pain because I'd felt that in my legs before, like sciatica. So that was like a long and depressing like journey back, but I mean it's taken a long time, but I'm actually so grateful that happened. And I mean the hardest part about it was that I permanently damaged something that was never going to get better, and that this is my spine.
Yeah,
and that like I needed the rest of my life. It wasn't like anything else. It was
that's so scary.
Yeah, it was, and that was what was just like terrible about the whole thing. And just I thought I was never going to do jiu-jitsu again because I couldn't even lift my leg off the ground if I was sitting on my butt, and I didn't have health insurance, and I was watching actually, and this is kind of a funny story. This is relevant. So I mentioned I was working at a law firm, and I had actually got approved to law school. I took the LSAT, and I got approved to law school. And I had my apartment and everything, and but I hurt my back, and I was about to get this back surgery. So I had there's these funny videos you can watch online. Okay, like post-op videos where someone will record themselves, like interview themselves. 1 day post-op, 2 day post-op, 3 day post-op. And they're really popular because when you're about to get a surgery, you want to hear from someone who's had the surgery, right? Yeah. Like, because you don't know what's about to happen.
You want some feedback.
Yeah, and I remember I watched like 4 of these series, and 3 out of 4 of them were law school students. They're like, just finished the bar exam, can finally get my back surgery. And I haven't even gone to law school yet.
That's crazy,
and it's
dude.
Because they're looking down at the book.
No kidding.
You know what I mean?
Dude.
The torque on your back.
Just positional
and sitting all day.
Strain.
It's terrible for you. And jiu-jitsu is even worse because you're hip flexors. So that was a big reason why I didn't I ended up not going to law school and doing jiu-jitsu full time. But a lot of it was like now I look back on it and haven't gone through the rehab. Because I would have had surgery 100% if I had insurance and money to do it.
Yeah.
But I didn't have those options, so I was going to physical therapy at Core Physical Medicine, but it was the one in Keller.
Okay, with Steve?
Yeah, it was with Dan Ostrowski. And
is there more than 2? I know Steve Ward and I know JB. Yeah.
That's Steve's over there. Yeah.
Is it? Okay, cool.
So, and they actually like taught me so much about the body, about how I need to like loosen my hip flexors and my hand. It wasn't just do these exercises. It was like, look, like your discs are like this. See how your hips compress. I mean, and they showed me my MRI, and they showed me this, and then they showed me like the big skeleton.
Yeah.
And we need to tilt your pelvis back this way. And I remember having the slightest bit of relief from doing something like that. And then that was like a long journey back, but like they completely rehab my back. And now it's like second nature. I do those exercises all day. And I can tell when I sit in the car, I travel for work. Yeah. 4 hours in the car. When I don't even think about it. I'm just constantly loosening up my hip flexors and my hamstrings. Wow. And actually I developed a berimbolo game after that, which is like crazy, you know, but like my back feels fine. I want to get an MRI to see, like I want to see what it looks like, because I have zero sciatica, you know what I mean? Wow. And because of that was like my intro into physical therapy and how the body works, and yoga. I know you mentioned that you started yoga recently, and yeah, I do hot yoga on occasion, and just learning about the body. And I truly believe hurting my back was inevitable. And so I'm glad it happened. Yeah. Like I'm truly happy that it happened, because that's what made me like today. And I'm not even diminished. I don't feel like I'm diminished at all. Mm-hmm. And so it was a necessary part of my journey.
It feels like it gives you the opportunity to just solve a problem that you're probably inevitably going to be faced with if you wanted to continue down this path. You know, now you have all this knowledge and you have this ability. Because, you know, I mentioned that I would have never put you in that category of what, I mean, essentially is like almost crippled, dude. I mean, if you can't move your freaking legs, you know, because of an injury in jiu-jitsu, if your shoulder's about to fall off because your rotator cuff is broken, I mean, like, dude, those are debilitating quality of life issues, you know, but I don't see you like that at all. I see you as a guy that's doing, you know, sort of like boat poses and freaking all these kind of like, you know, I wouldn't call them aggressive, but skilled stretches and poses and mobility work as a part of your warm-up. And then when you walk and move, you're standing up straight. And then of course your game is very fluid as well. So I had no idea, man, that you had to, you know, kind of grapple with all that stuff. I
mean, that's like, you know, I say like it doesn't affect me anymore, but like it's because I don't even think about it anymore. Like we've been sitting for a while here. Yeah. Whenever I stand up, like I'm probably going to stretch, you know what I mean? But like if I don't like flex my core and I stand up, all of a sudden I'll get a shock to my body. You know, like it can revert back pretty quickly. But as long as I take care of myself, then it's okay. And I think I've saved my knees and my shoulders, because now the second that I have a problem, I go learn about it and figure out how it works.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Do people ever come to you for advice on that stuff? I mean,
no, we have so many great resources like JB and JB's got to be mentioned every podcast.
Until he comes on, at least, dude. And that's Core Chiropractic in Flower Mound. I have a theory that maybe he's like dodging me because I wasn't giving him a plug.
No, but we have so many guys like that. And maybe that's just my personality is the same with jiu-jitsu. Like, I'm like, who am I to tell you what to do? It's kind of been a personal thing. But, you know, now I do share like my opinion on those things. But at the end of the day, it's just an opinion and everybody's on their own.
It's true, man, but
it's not going to be heard, you know,
dude, you'd be surprised, man. I think people look for this, and the most heartbreaking thing. And again, like going back to the whole point of this, right, is that like Wes Vance does not need to hear this podcast in order to keep him trained in jiu-jitsu, right? Like, you know, but there's a white belt, blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, whatever, somebody that's on the verge. And a lot of times the injury is what pushes them out, man, you know, especially when you don't have as much vested. You know, and so it's heartbreaking for me to see it. We had a guy that I don't even know his name, man, but he hurt his knee on the mats. He was white belt. That's how I knew he was. You know, never saw him again, never. And that was 2 years ago, and that happens all the time. It's like, dude, you know, if people knew how to take care of their bodies a little bit better and be a little more preventative.
The weird one to me is like because I've been through so many injuries, and then usually I just learn about it and heal it. You know what I mean? Figure out what I have to do, and we get through it. And then to truly be back to 100%, like that's a miracle. Yeah. Like, I mean, it's like, and you're constantly getting older. So even if you healed on the last injury, you're not so sure you're going to heal on the next injury, you know? But there's people I asked about, they're like, oh man, I would love to do jiu-jitsu, but I tore my ACL when I was 14 or 16 in football. And like our understanding of what's going on with your body, like that's so in your head. Like that's not how bodies work, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you break it and it's broken forever. Like, your body has an amazing ability to adapt. And of course, everyone's different.
Sure.
But people just lean on them as crutches. Like, I had that ability to, I almost broke my foot because I would step and I couldn't pick my pinky toe up. So if I didn't step, I would just roll my foot, you know.
Really?
And and that's never getting better. Those discs are still herniated, but I don't feel it at all. And if you know, I've never tore a serious ligament. I tore both my LCLs, but not the internal ones, like the ACL, which is more serious. So I can't speak to that specifically, but I just seen people come back from ACL injuries, you know. So what really can you do to your body that you can't come back from?
Yeah.
You know, there are some things, you know, but when someone says that, I'm just like, oh.
Yeah. I think that ultimately you do get to the point where you and I were talking about this again, like outside of the podcast even. But I don't think you would mind me saying this, but I mean, you took it easy today because you're nurturing your body and you're being smart about, you know, how you use your body, and your body's more of a product now for reasons that we can get into in a second. But like, people need to take ownership of their own training but you know, when it becomes like this binary choice, like either I'm 100% and I'm going, or it's not worth it, dude, you're missing so much of the essence of jiu-jitsu and what it has to offer, and like the communal benefits and the long-term physical benefits. If you're not 100% and you absolutely can't roll, there's still so many steps and interim pieces of participation that you could be a part of.
Yeah, and so much of taking care of your body, in my opinion, like something that's so therapeutic about jiu-jitsu for your body is that you're barefoot on a mat and that you're moving around, you're rolling around, and you would never do that like outside of jiu-jitsu. So if you can manage, like I got on the mat today, I didn't do anything, but I did a little warm up, the forward rolls and the back, because that's not going to hurt me, and like just a little movement, and like most people feel like that's nothing, but like I was at my desk all day, you know what I mean? I was in the car all day. Yeah. Like, and being barefoot on a mat, like, you know, your feet are so important.
Nimble, be careful on your toes, you know?
When we're shooting those double legs across, like you're stretching everything in your foot, like all that stuff plays into taking care of your body.
Like, damn, for me, what the hell is going on today? Like,
what? It was Pohada, that's what's
is that what
today.
It was? Yeah. He was getting us ready
today.
That was cool. Should have seen that coming. So now at least we know a little warning.
Yeah.
So I guess I kind of gave a little prelude there, but I mean, what's some of the stuff that's going on right now? I mean, you've got a connection. We mentioned it with some of the work colleagues that you've got, but now you've recently kind of entered into the world of coaching.
Yeah. So
I shouldn't say recently entered in, but you've entered it into a bigger way, I suppose. Yeah.
So we have another Double 5 location off 183. It's called Double 5 Mid Cities. And Formiga and Russell asked me to take over as the head coach of that gym. And honestly, I wasn't very excited about it at first. I've always been really selfish with my training. And now that I'm here at this professional academy and I have been inspired to compete more, I just wanted to focus on myself and not necessarily do that. I was given all kinds of reasons. But, you know, I have guys like JP and Formiga, like these incredible leaders that basically got me riled up about being a better leader and how the world needs leaders and things like that. And I've always had this, like, I think it's normal, but like imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, I've done jiu-jitsu my entire life. I've trained all over the world, like hundreds of gyms. Like,
that's crazy, man.
I know what I'm doing, but it's still funny. I always feel like it's not good enough, you know, especially now we're at this high level. It's like, I'm comparing myself to Formiga or Rodrigo, like, and coaching is such an intimate thing and takes so much more than just teaching that hour. But I've kind of gotten over that and recognized that it's just like self-doubt, it's negative thoughts, and it's just a bunch of garbage, and that like I'm actually the perfect guy for the job.
Yeah.
And I love this team, and we have a lot of goals that are like really big, and we're gonna need everybody, like all hands on deck. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to once I got over it. And it was like, okay.
Was this a long, you know, like recovery?
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy for me to think that, man. I'm sure people that know you and train with you are probably like, Wes, what the hell's going on?
I feel like it was Formiga's plan all along.
Is that right?
And that's what really pisses me off, because I was like, I told him the second that they opened that gym, I knew that, I mean, it's 5 5 minutes down the street from me.
Yeah.
You know, I drive like 45, 50 minutes to practice every day.
Yeah.
You know, so like to come to HQ.
Every time I hear somebody say that, I feel this little salty dig into my wounds and like what a pathetic, undisciplined slug I am. Because I'm like, I'm so lucky, dude. Because here we are, dude. We trained at noon, and we got into the podcast after. But I mean, for years I just neglected my training because of a lack of initiative, essentially. And now I'm right down the street. But then I hear stories like you or James Faulkner or James Gonzalez or people that are down in like freaking Waxahachie or Bedford or the other side of the Metroplex, and I'm like. Or Chaz, who spends $20 in tolls to get over 3 times a week. I mean, I'm like, man, what's wrong with me? That's pretty pathetic.
Man, I was driving over here after practice, and I couldn't believe how close we were to the gym.
I know.
I said, I'm never feeling bad for Dave ever again.
Dude, please no, man. Please make me feel bad if I'm not there. Like, you're right down the street. You know?
Yeah, you have no excuse.
But I don't have any excuses. But anyway.
But yeah, so I'm over it. I'm looking forward to leading these guys into battle, and I hope to inspire them the same way that this team's inspired me. Because when I came to this team, it's not about wanting to be a competitor. Whether no matter what you want from jiu-jitsu, we all want to get better.
Yeah.
And if you listen to what your coaches say, like the best way, if you want to get better the fastest, this competition route's the way to do it. Doesn't mean it's for everybody, but just I don't ever want to hear you complaining about where you're at.
Yeah.
Like if you want to,
so what do you mean by that? If
you want the fast track, if you want to get good as if you want to get as good as possible and maximize your time, I think you need to compete. And that's intimidating for a lot of people. And people say, oh, it's not for me. And I've listened to the other podcasts. And, like, that's fine. That's not my opinion.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter. It's amateur competition. You know, this is a small sport, you know. And so really, if you don't want to compete, I want to ask you why you don't want to compete. You know, and because I came here, like, my competitive spirit had already died. Because I had already lost and didn't think, you know what I mean, and wasn't real willing to do. And even when I came to Formiga with Zach, I had no intention in competing. Yeah, I just wanted to get better, and I took a fight to win within a month, you know, and I tapped a guy in a minute and a half. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's just something about those guys, like they really take the pressure off. Yeah. Maybe for other people it's different.
Maybe so. I wonder if it's an environment type of a thing.
Yeah,
or an
I know that those guys are.
I don't think so, man.
As long as you do your best, like go, like, and that's easy to say, like do your best, but it's been so empowering for me, like just to not be so result oriented. In fact, I've had 3 fight to win since I've been with Double Five, and I won 2 and I lost 1. And
when was your latest one? Recently?
A couple months ago.
Yeah. You won?
Yeah,
I thought so.
Yeah, a decision, but I mean, I dominated the guy. But the funny thing is you know, your family comes out to that, your friends that don't do jiu-jitsu, and they have a good time. But like, the world is result oriented. Yeah. Right. And I'm not. I'm performance oriented. And I left that match that I lost as the one that I'm most happy about because I actually performed to the highest of my ability in that match. Yeah. But I lost to someone who was better than me, and he just beat me. Yeah. You know, whereas the other 2 guys, I was going to beat them no matter what. And I didn't compete very well in either of them. Yeah. Even the guy I tapped in a minute and a half. I can't really watch the video. Like, because
How bad can it go in 90 seconds, man?
It wasn't that. When I watched the video, I see myself, and this is like a month into the Double Five. I've been here over 2 years now. Yeah. So I've grown so much as a grappler since then, and I watch myself, and I remember I just changed gyms. Mm-hmm. There was a bunch of drama. And I wanted to win because I wanted to made the right decision, right? Yeah, and it was like, and everyone was there. And I remember where everyone was sitting because I was so focused on what everybody thought. Yeah. And like,
it's a good perspective.
I watch now and I'm like, man, I'm so tight. Like, I'm so nervous. And I made technical mistakes. There's this really cool picture because I did a berimbolo in that match. And I have, like, I believe that you should go to the belt grip, not the collar grip. I think the collar grip's faulty, so like it's just a technical thing. And I like there's this really cool high res picture of me upside down in a berimbolo, but I'm holding the collar grip. You know, so I hate that picture. So it's because I'm making a mistake.
It's being in your OCD.
I'm making a mistake, and it worked because I'm better than that guy. Yeah. You know what I mean? I was gonna beat him no matter what. Yeah. So that's why you can't worry about the result. Mm-hmm. You know, but I didn't perform that well, and I didn't perform that well in the last one either. But the one that I fought, Eric Raposo, a guy that I've traveled to his gym in Baton Rouge and trained with him, a guy I highly respect. He's Pan American black belt champion. Like, he's a high level guy.
Mm-hmm.
We had a great match, and I didn't get tired, and it was high level, and I was just in the zone, you know, and I lost, but he's a tough grappler,
yeah,
you know, and that's my favorite match so far.
That's cool.
That's kind of what I'm getting at with and nobody cared when I beat the last guy,
yeah,
because your peers, your coaches, they know,
yeah,
they're like, man, okay,
of course,
go beat this guy, yeah. Whereas like when I fought Eric, my own coaches think I'm gonna lose, you know what I mean? But
that's not a conversation.
They're proud. They're proud of me. Like right away, they're like the message I got when I took that fight was like, "Good for you, man."
Yeah.
But I mean, I know that my teammates think I'm gonna lose, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like they're still like, "Good for you, man."
Yeah.
Like
to step up.
Know? And I think I can beat that guy too. But it was yeah. That's what I have to say about that. And that's the main main thing I've taken from this being on this team. And what I want to share with other people.
It seems like it's a mentality change, you know, like disconnecting yourself from actually the result itself, but like the process of leading up to the result. You know?
If you go out there and get smoked by someone, all that happened is information was revealed. Yeah. Nothing happened. That guy was still better than you the night before. Yeah. You just got revealed some information.
Interesting.
You know what I mean? So like, if you didn't take the fight, that guy's still better than you. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not like, so we're just figuring it all out here.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
It's just kind of shining a light on it or revealing it. And so if you're not competing, then that must mean that you are afraid of that reality and that fear is what's stopping you or
and these are things you can take in your life, you know, like the fear of failure is real. Like, you know, and I've struggled, like, it just stopped me in my tracks so many times. And I truly feel now like I'm completely free from that. I don't care. Like, I care about just solely focused on performing. Yeah. And that's, it's like reignited my whole jiu-jitsu career. And I'm more excited about training and competing than I've ever been. And, I'm looking forward to the future, and I'm going to relentlessly pursue a world title. And I look forward to bringing along a team with me. Now that's more recent, but I also think it's perfect timing to start coaching because it's always best, I think, to lead from the front. If I wait till I'm already past it, which is kind of what you want to do. Let me go win all these titles and then cash in on my accolades. But it's like, no, man, like I'm just as interested in teaching these guys how to win as I am in teaching them how to lose. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I'm not afraid of what's going to happen.
That's amazing, man. So that's amazing. What's a class like for you guys? I mean, are you running it basically like Formiga is?
Yeah, or do you it's identical to Formiga's. So I go to the noon class, and I teach the same exact technique. Yeah, and then we roll it to the minute, to the format of what's happening in Highland Village, and besides, like, maybe the warm-ups, and I do a little cool-down at the end, and that's because of what we talked about with the injuries, and I do have opinions about those.
Yeah, you have a lot of knowledge on it as well. I mean, aside from opinions, dude, I mean, you're pretty qualified. Yeah. You know.
So I feel comfortable with that, and like, this is a proven method. Mm-hmm. So we can debate it all we want, but, like, this is a proven method, so we're going to stick with that for a while. And yeah, it's a high standard, so it's asking a lot of me. Like, I don't take it lightly. It's not just like me opening my own gym. Yeah. It's a double 5. And I want it to be treated the same way as you know, I want people to see like, oh crap, this is a double 5. Like,
I like that, man.
So it's not going to be enough just to.
What are you guys called? Double 5 Mid-Cities?
Double 5 Mid-Cities.
That's amazing.
I hate the name.
What else would you call it? Do you Double 5 Bedford?
Anything else? Because I grew up in that area, and there's a road called Mid-Cities Boulevard right there. Yeah. And we're not on that road.
So you think it's confusing geographically?
I'm going to petition to change it because I wasn't involved in the coaching when it happened, and even then it bothered me. But it is what it is.
I guess you could argue that, like, oh, well, you're isolating the Euless people if you call it Double 5 Bedford.
I hate it.
If you're not from DFW, you have no idea what we're talking about. But, I mean, there is a cluster of cities called the Mid-Cities, and apparently Westin has a very strong opinion about which one it should be called.
So they took over an old gym called Ironside. It's where Dylan and Tanner used to train.
I like that name, dude.
And and here's the thing,
pretty hardcore.
Like, they all unanimously agreed that they didn't want it to be Ironside. I was like, call it double 5 Ironside.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
Like,
I mean, who knows? Maybe there's some baggage or whatever. You know?
that's fine. Whatever.
Yeah.
But even then, we have double 5 Eclipse, double 5 Wolverine, double 5 Falcon. Like, it's not... anyway, I don't want to go on a rant about one of Formiga's gyms, but this is an open petition.
Well, it definitely sounds like... Well, you heard it, man. If anybody else shares the opinion, then I think you know the guy to talk to. Well, for what it's worth, man, when you told me that you were going to go do that, I was like, obviously, that's what Wes should do, man. There's no question in my mind. So I'm sure that you contemplated it for days and days. But I'm kind of in JP's camp, man. You're a natural, and if anybody can convince me and teach me to start working on Berimbolo, then, I mean, you've got a freaking A+ in terms of your ability to instruct. I still remember that lesson.
Hey, man, style points are still points. That's why I'm a Berimbolo.
Like, it's not even style, man. There's such a utility to it. And so, anyway, I didn't even understand that until taking one of your classes. We skipped over kind of a pretty interesting topic, but I mean, you have trained at, hundreds of gyms. And so you mentioned earlier that you were sponsored at some point. You did a lot of traveling and whatnot. I mean, to travel or to train at hundreds of gyms, I mean, like, you kind of have to be in a weird situation or have some kind of unique circumstances around you. So what was going on at this time in your life that gave you the opportunity or caused you, I don't know which way you would look at it, to end up frequenting hundreds of gyms? And
okay, so there's a couple of things. First of all, already I went to college in Hawaii and then Taiwan. That was multiple gyms at each time I went there, right?
Yeah.
And then I came back home, and I used to do a lot of the local tournaments, like the American Grappling Federation with Chris Carlino.
Mm-hmm.
They did like some kind of sponsored athlete program or whatever, so you could get free registration to those tournaments.
It's a big deal, man.
Yeah, so
$100 a tournament, dude. I mean, if you're doing a lot of those a year, that's thousands of dollars of value.
I was sponsored so I could compete more, and then he reached out to all the sponsored athletes and says, "Hey, we're going on this Jiu Jitsu road trip." Okay, so I don't remember where we went first, but basically he sponsored everyone, like one person per gym, right, in DFW, and now you have a group of people. We're all from different gyms, and then he would take us to like Florida, say, and we would travel and train at maybe 12 to 15 gyms, like over a 4-day period, like 3 gyms a day, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a PR thing for the AGF, because if they take a bunch of high-level guys, then we show up to an academy, like that helps that academy.
Yeah.
We make that personal connection. And then next time that Chris comes into town with an AGF, those academy owners are more likely to sign up their guys. So it was just a win. It was a brilliant idea, right?
Were you guys doing seminars when you'd stop at these academies?
Sometimes, yeah, but mostly just showing up for class.
Okay.
Enrolling.
Got it.
So those are brutal trips, because it's 3 days. It's training 3 times a day is already hard enough, and then you don't know what you're going to get, because different gym every time, right? So this is when I met Mark Franscuddy.
You in a bus?
Like
in a Corolla,
like a Suburban or something.
A Suburban. Yeah. A bunch of jiu-jitsu guys, a bunch of sweaty geese in the back. I mean,
okay, yeah, do the math on this. We had 7 or 8 guys.
Oof.
That's 21 geese.
Oof.
At the end of the day.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And we used to drive across country. We got smarter now. Now we fly somewhere, get a nice Airbnb. We'll go to like Arizona and we'll go train at Tinquinios and Megatons. Like the Arizona trip was the best. They've gotten way better because we've gotten older and smarter, instead of doing the whole road trip thing.
Your standards have raised.
Yeah, standards are much higher. But I think I used to do this because I was just hungry to learn and go train with people, and it was fun. This is how I met.
What an opportunity, dude.
Yeah. So I met Mark that way.
Okay.
And
Mark, owner of Wolverine, the Double 5 Wolverine location that you mentioned earlier.
And he was still at Octagon at the time.
Okay.
So when we came to Double 5, Zach, and Caleb, Mark came at the same time.
Okay.
So all this happened because
this might have been Chaz's connection too, because I remember he brought your name into it, either on the podcast.
Okay, so I need to clear this story up too, because Chaz was over at Vinny's and I heard y'all's podcast, and Chaz said that I said that he sucked, and I never said that. And basically, I trained with him that day, and this happens a lot. Okay, if you're training at a high level, and then you go train with someone, sometimes they're just haven't been training with other high level guys, or they're not in super good shape, or whatever the reason is. Like it's a timing and pace thing. So I go train with Chaz, and like I smashed him, but Chaz is super good. Like actually every time I would mount him, he would always recover. Like I could never keep a dominant position.
Yeah.
His fundamentals were so good, he just kept recovering.
Yeah.
Of course, at the end of the round, he feels like, man, I was just recovering the whole time. For me, I'm frustrated that I couldn't hold the dominant position.
Yeah.
And he's exhausted, but I'm in shape. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was giving him a compliment. I said, dude, I can tell you're really good. Like, you should still come train sometime. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I said to him. He took that as
sarcasm.
Westin said that I suck. It's like, man, ask anyone about me. I would never say that.
That's
but anyway,
a trip, dude.
I digress. So
he knows you enough too. I can't imagine he even thinks that that's reality.
Yeah.
I think Chaz just puts himself. He's got a standard, and he's like, like it just didn't go as well as I thought it should have. And
yeah, and he's so good. It's ridiculous.
It really is, man. He's got a huge future. He's going to Pans next week, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him come back with a medal. So
yeah, I agree. So we would go on these trips, and I've been on about 7 or 8 of them. So if you follow me on Instagram, that's all that it was for the longest time. You just see all these random gyms on there, and that's basically how I feel like I got better at jiu-jitsu, was just mass exposure. And again, remember, I'm at a closed environment back home with no cross training, but this was like a loophole.
Yeah,
if I could go out of town, it was like this major. I didn't even realize that was a thing until like later. I looked back on it and I go, oh man, that's what I was doing.
Yeah,
because I had this thought one day, because I'll see the guys in Chicago, like the Chicago Open, and I've trained at all the gyms in Chicago. So like I'll watch the Chicago Open and I know all the guys.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, because I've trained at all the gyms there. But that didn't happen in DFW. I didn't know all the people in DFW.
Yeah, this is home turf, and there's some rules of engagement you got to follow here. Right?
Yeah, right. But now it's different. Yeah. Now that I'm at Formiga's with an open environment, when we do fight to win and we're in the back, we know
all the guys. Yeah,
everybody. Yeah. And it's just a big party back there.
Yeah,
So
how long did you guys keep this pace up? The 7-man Suburban, 21 geese in the back, and freaking
4 or 5 days.
Okay,
3, 4, 5 days.
Okay,
it's a sprint. A lot of ibuprofen.
Yeah, no kidding, dude. What's it like being a black belt, walking into a stranger's gym with some expectations on you? You feel like you got to target?
I think actually I was mainly when I was a purple belt and brown belt. Mm-hmm. I think I've only done one trip as a black belt.
Okay.
And it was actually after I'd already joined Formiga's. Okay. So we went on a trip the first year I was with Formiga's to Oklahoma, not even that far. Mm-hmm. But I remember going on that trip, and I was training at some really good gyms, but also some gyms that weren't so good. And this was the first time that I realized I was sacrificing a week at Formiga's to be here. Yeah. So I don't know how many more of those trips I'll go on.
Is that right?
Because and I got hurt. You get beat up.
Yeah.
Because that's a lot of training.
Yeah.
And so it's a high risk. And in my opinion, the reward, it wasn't what it used to be for me. But I think we'll plan some more trips. But we're gonna have to look for the quality.
Yeah.
Like the Arizona trip was incredible. The Arizona has some amazing, like Scottsdale area. Yeah. Has some amazing jiu-jitsu. I'd love to go to California. Florida has incredible. I'll go back there, like Fabian Rosa's gym. Mm-hmm. And I mean, next time I'll just ask for me where he recommends, because he knows that. 100%. You know what I mean? So,
well, luckily you're not gonna have. I mean, if you can get it in, Mississippi or in,
or we can go to the Origin Camp.
We can go to the Origin Camp, dude. That's gonna be interesting this year. I have a conflict, and I don't know how I'm gonna remedy this conflict, because that's about the time my son's going to school. So I've already registered, but I'm not going to miss taking my son to college. Mm-hmm. I did it for the older one, and I'm not going to miss it for the younger one. So I don't know when he's going yet, but like that's going to trump it. But are you going to go?
Yeah, I'm going to go.
Are you? Awesome, man. Awesome. It'd be good to get more 5 guys up there, because also there's Worlds right after that. Mm-hmm. And, it's like anything. It's a distracting environment. And if I'm like, obviously I'm just freaking, Joe Bag of Donuts. I'm a normal dude. I'm there to experience camp, not get ready for a black belt level match at World Masters. But dude, to be able to put yourself mentally in a state to be able to train, and then also have the burdens of being a main instructor at the camp, mm-hmm. I think that's a conflict.
I agree. And I think it cost Formiga last year, because he was strung out all over the country doing
he was amazing
seminars.
He was straight up amazing at the camp. There's still people that talk about him, and like going around the camp, people were always like, dude, I can't believe what we learned today. And you just realize what a golden nugget you've got, having.
Well, the good news is, here's the thing. from an outside perspective, I don't know all the business and everything, but obviously being associated with Origin and Jocko and JP and all those guys, like, it's good. Like, Formiga needs to be at the camp.
Yeah.
Okay. But it is right before Worlds, and that takes, like, it's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Like, you think that the conflict, like, it's a huge problem. And the only way out is for us to all go to Origin camp and do the training camp in Origin. It's the only way out.
Yeah.
And I've talked to him about it, and I think he's going to teach less classes out at Origin.
Yeah.
And there's going to be specific time for our Worlds training.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
we're going to have to do a Worlds training camp at the Origin camp.
That's going to be amazing.
And I mean,
God, that puts me in a bad spot, dude. Don't tell me that.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to do a little politicking internally, or I might just have to show up late.
Can you come late? Yeah.
JP can come late. See, I mean, so there's, I mean, I'm totally talking out of turn here, but like there's definitely some people with a hookup, right?
But some people come, it's split into 2 sections, isn't it?
No, it used to be.
Oh.
It used to be. And after COVID, I think because of the challenges of pulling that off during COVID, they just stuck with it, and now it's a week. And obviously the demand has picked up considerably. The size has picked up considerably. And so, look, man, we don't need to split up into 2. That's a pain in the ass. We're not going to do that, you know? Mm-hmm. I mean, for a lot of people, that's a big draw, man, to leave for a week, you know? But if you're into jiu-jitsu and you want to train anyway, and then, you know, you can't beat it.
Yeah, we're going to turn right around and go to Vegas.
I know. Oh, and that's the other thing. And then if you're going to compete in Vegas, then, like, you know, that could be forget about work, man. That could be a tough sell at home.
Funny story about Jocko real quick. Okay, so the first time I ever went to that, this was after I had started reading Jocko. My life changed dramatically. I made more money in a month than I'd ever made in a year.
What did you read?
I read Extreme Ownership.
Extreme Ownership.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, my life completely changed. Okay. And then so I go out to I got to go to Origin camp. I got to go shake Jocko's hand, right?
Was that the big driver, Jocko?
It was all about Jocko. I didn't care about the jiu-jitsu. Didn't care about nothing. I need to go to this Jocko camp, and I got to go meet Jocko. I got to shake his hand. Could have just gone to California to his gym and like had private 100%,
right? Or especially some of the folks you hang with now, you could probably get a
well. This was before I knew him. This is before I knew him, right?
Yeah.
So I go up to Origin.
Yeah.
And after this, I'm going to a wedding in like Lyon, France. Right.
Okay.
Like, so I'm like, it's tight, right? So I go up to Origin, I meet Jocko, I get a roll with Jocko, I have a great time with Jocko.
Dang.
I say thanks, and then leave to Europe. Like, as I'm heading to Europe, like I look at my phone, and Jocko's at my gym in Keller.
Really?
Yeah, JP brought him in.
Oh man!
And dude. I was like, this is unbelievable.
Yeah,
like, I just couldn't get, like, I couldn't believe that it happened. But
did you enjoy the camp at least without?
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
I mean, I have still friends. I'm actually going to Cleveland for a work event, and like I met some brothers there a long time ago. I haven't seen them since, but we're all looking forward to mixing it up and doing some jiu-jitsu.
Dude, I did not realize. I've listened to Jocko since 2017. Buddy of mine turned me on. He's like, man, you might like this guy. And I'm like, I do. This is awesome. I'm in my own world, man, sometimes. And I read the books and everything. And as he writes another book, I mean, I'm not going to go rush to get it, but, you know, eventually I'll find my way to picking one up. So I knew, I mean, the dude's making waves, like big time, right? And this is, yes, he's associated with Origin, but not in the way he is right now. That like over the last 2 years has really taken off, you know? And so I just didn't appreciate like how much of an influence he had until I went to the camp. And I mean, I've told some of these other stories, but I mean, like when the first year I was there, he wasn't there right away. He had some other stuff going on. And when he finally made his way there, dude, the whispers, it was like, hey, Jocko's here. I heard Jocko's coming. I heard Jocko. Like everybody, like all the chatter just starts, and then these blacked out Suburbans roll up. And I'm like, it was straight up celebrity status. And I'm like, I'm not surprised. He totally warrants it. He has straight up changed people's life, myself included. You know, I've had hundreds of hours of his voice in my head, you know, just listening to podcasts and whatnot over the last 5 or 6 years. But I just didn't have the appreciation for it for folks that are like, you know, I was a school teacher and then somehow I got turned on to this. Like, it just doesn't seem like a match for this like hardcore Navy SEAL, you know, commander and high level officer as well. Forget about like, you know, the special operations. I mean, it's just crazy, man. It's crazy. And then like the connection now with our gym and some of these things. I mean, dude, it's just so weird, man. It's such a small world.
Yeah,
you know?
It's wild.
It really is.
I mean, just imagine how weird it was when JP walked into my gym.
Yeah.
You know, back home.
Seriously.
I just see one day JP Deneau was following you, and I was like, JP Deneau, I know that name. What the
yeah.
hell? And I look and I'm like, this is, and to this day, I mean, and then honestly, we talked about like all the coincidences and things like the Formiga connection to Origin because of Dideko and Alexi.
Right.
And then Jocko, and then we have JP, and I don't know, all those things just kind of come together and just reminds me that I know I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah,
These are the people I want to be around.
It does seem like there's a providence there. Having that connection too. I mean, like from just a pure jiu-jitsu perspective. I mean, outside of Jocko, outside of Origin and whatnot, being introduced to Dideko and whatnot, especially with what Formiga means to me. I mean, he changed my game, changed my mentality, and ultimately will change the trajectory of my life. And to be able to meet his teacher and just to see the connection and have that connection. I mean, dude, that meant a ton to me. And now it just seems like the family is getting a little bit tighter and there's a little bit more connective tissue and whatnot. So that stepped your game up career-wise too, you were saying? I mean, did you?
Yeah, I mean, basically before that after I quit law school, I started a gi cleaning business. I would wash everybody's gis and like teach private lessons.
That is hardcore.
Do anything that I could to do jiu-jitsu. And I was actually pretty happy at the time, even though I was really broke. But I was ready for that message, the discipline message. Yeah. Because up until that point in my whole life, I believe in working harder, not smarter. Yeah. Or working smarter, not harder, rather. And that's all well and good, but I think you should work smart and hard. Yeah. And so I was ready to hear that. I think I was just in the perfect time. And I mean, I literally was. It took my jiu-jitsu game to the next level. And, I mean, I was going to the library and just, like, forcing myself to read books. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't even remember that person, like, and I cleaned up my diet. I mean, everything, right? That's amazing. Just took accountability for everything. And just on a whim, just from a guy at the gym who owned an adjusting firm, I got my insurance adjusting, my property and casualty license. And just because, like, why not? Right? Yeah. So I was at the library just doing this, and then a month later, Hurricane Harvey happened. Yeah. So, I mean, it hit Texas. Yeah.
I wasn't in Texas, but I mean, I do remember how devastating that was. It was this storm that just hung out for, I don't know how long, a week, 2 weeks, something like that. Straight up hurricane, like dumping freaking.
No, and people, I mean.
Spiraling back and forth. I mean.
I had heard stories of how people could make money and like adjusting, and it was kind of the perfect thing, like, because the licenses, expire every 2 years. And people don't like to stay in it because it revolves around storms. So it's not like you can't really count on it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound very predictable.
But for me, it's exactly what I was looking for. A lot of ups and downs. It's like feast or famine. Yeah. And but that was perfect for me because I wanted to train jiu-jitsu. I wasn't interested in getting a job that was going to interfere with jiu-jitsu. So I was like, oh, this is cool.
Straight up jiu-jitsu guy here, dude.
a natural disaster can occur, and I can just disappear for 6 weeks.
Yeah, what's the way
make as much money in 6 weeks as most people make in a year, like, or not. Yeah, because that might not happen. But that was perfect. And
straight up jiu-jitsu guy. How do I aggregate as much money as possible in a short amount of time so that it interferes as least as possible with my jiu-jitsu training?
Yep, that's how it goes. And awesome. And I've managed to stay in the industry. And in Texas we have a lot of hail and everything revolves. I'm sure you've seen a million roofing trucks. So I worked as a consultant for a while, and now I work with another guy at the gym, Russell Roberts, that I met. Actually, I've known him for a long, long time, but now he's at 555. I expect him to win a world championship this year in his category. So that's really fun, doing business together with someone who wants to chase world titles at the same time. Like, I mean, that's the dream right there.
If he wins his world title, do you think he'll finally get a brown belt? Because I think he's had his purple belt for like 14 years.
Yeah, but he wasn't training. Yeah, no, he was a purple belt at the same time as me. I have some old videos from like 2012.
That's so funny. Russell and I are the same age, dude. And I mean, we have a similar story in that way too. But I'm always joking with him. I'm like, dude, let's get this thing off you, man.
No, he'll get there. I think he's gonna give him one more run at Worlds.
That's cool. I mean, I know Russell. That's something.
He ran through everyone at Dallas.
I know,
except for that giant tank. Yeah,
dude, 100%. Like, dude, tank. I'm not sure how that would go with me, and I'm, his size.
That guy's scary.
Yeah, he is, dude.
He's
funny
coming story.
Up in my division too. So
funny story. We're the first time he fought him, like, Russell's like about to fight someone who's 120 pounds bigger than him, and he's got the eye of the tiger. He's getting all ready.
Russell is bouncing around.
And
He does
like
that when
he's
gonna
ready
train
to
in the
fight
gym,
this guy.
dude.
He's ready to fight this guy, right? And Formiga comes up to him and says, Rochelle, be careful, this guy hurts people. And he just didn't want him to get hurt. He's like, man, you do your job. You won your division. Like,
yeah.
Almost like, don't do it. But he's like,
it's Dallas, bro.
Yeah.
It's live to fight another day. You get a couple months until you're going to Vegas. That's
Exactly.
crazy.
So
that sounds like Russell. I did watch, and I guess he got silver in the Open. He lost to Tank in the finals. I mean, no shame to that whatsoever. And eventually somebody's going to give that dude a brown belt, and he'll be up in my division because I think he's my age. So that's not fantastic. Let's get into a little bit of perspective stuff because, I mean, especially, dude, with or without Double Five Mid-Cities, I mean, this would have been right up your alley. But now it's even more applicable because you've got students of your own that you are charged with mentoring and kind of guiding on their journey. You're obviously clearly a proponent of competition. You mentioned that. And, actually what you said makes a ton of sense because it kind of is a call to arms. Like you say you want to get your jiu-jitsu better, then like, why aren't you competing? Because that's what's going to do it. Not everybody's going to do it though. And not everybody has those ambitions. If you have somebody come into the gym and brand new white belt, what is your message to them? I mean, what do you tell them as they get as they get on their way?
That's a good question. A brand new white belt, I'm going to slowly reveal what this is all about to them. And I need to, and I know I said like everyone needs to compete if you want to get good. No, that's only if you want the track because you'll see people are frustrated and jiu-jitsu is really hard. And people want it like packaged in a little box that you can give them and they want the answers. But it's martial arts. It's not a science. It's not skill, a science.
Yeah.
You're basically asking someone to teach you the proper technique of like a brush stroke, like when you're painting, right?
Yeah.
And like, we can sit here and talk about the ideal angle of the paintbrush and this technique and that technique, but like, you just got to get the paint, and everyone's like so unique. And so basically what I want to tell for like a new student in jiu-jitsu is the first thing is I'd like to share with them that they're a part of something much bigger than just the team we have here. Like, and I'd like to share what the team's done for me and I want to do the same for them. But, it's really personal to me because I've dealt with a lot of loss, over the years. When I was in college, my best friend in college committed suicide. And, earlier this year I had another close friend and also a cousin. And, I don't think there's anyone that doesn't know somebody. It's kind of a big issue right now. Like men are kind of devalued and we're judged on what we can produce and what we can bring to the table. And so it's difficult for a lot of people. And I think that jiu-jitsu basically saved my life because a lot of us were raised in a situation where a lot of us were raised without fathers. And I think having mentors and good people around you in community, I think that it can save lives. So, and of course, when I'm looking at a young guy, I'm not going to tell him, hey, I'm trying to prevent you from hurting yourself. Like, that's not what it is, That's most people are okay.
Intro.
Yeah,
tough
most people
class.
are okay.
Yeah.
But I can see how it can help people, like in the most extreme way that way. So I guess just slowly, if that's just getting you in shape, getting you more confident, giving you something to do, a mission, friends, a community, mentors. These are all like positive things in jiu-jitsu that I realized that I was clinging to and hungry for, and I couldn't put my finger on it all these years. And I just look back, and when something like that happens, and I wonder like why that didn't happen to me whenever I was low in my life and things like that. It's because I've always had people. So I mean, I traveled all over the world. People are like, man, that's crazy. You went to all these places, and I'm an only child raised by a single mom. Like statistically, the odds aren't that great.
Yeah.
And and we didn't have money, and but I was always able to find my people.
Yeah.
And you know, like I'm not particularly religious either, but I see the same thing in Jesus and Jiu Jitsu. That's why I support that, because I think the world we need those communities, and we don't have our churches, we don't have our, you know, and then the pandemic just wrecked that. And I can't speak for everyone. I think it's great for women too, but I'm only speaking as a man because I'm a man. And yeah, the question was, what do I tell a new wipo when he comes in? Man, I don't know. I'm just going to teach you some jiu-jitsu. Yeah. But as I get to know you, if you need a friend, if you need a mentor, if I can do a fraction of what people have given me, then that's successful to me. So
it's a powerful message, man. And I mean, it's hard to unpack that in a little bit, but nothing funny about it, but the ironic thing about it, I suppose, is that, first of all, that's not like a marketing campaign. You know, that's not something that you put on your website and say, like, come train jiu-jitsu because of these things. But the message that I wish I understood, and it wasn't that this was out there. It isn't that this wasn't out there. It's that I wasn't ready for it and I didn't understand it yet. It wasn't until recently that I really realized the next level that jiu-jitsu can provide. And I've had people that know me really well, even recently, that are like, what the hell is wrong with you, dude? Why are you so into this now? Like, what happened? What did you get, like, bit by something? And it's not that. Jiu-jitsu's always been there. I'm 15 years in at this point, you know. It's that I realized exactly what you just talked about, which is that there is this whole new level of connectivity. Sure, you're going to learn skills. Sure, you're going to get in shape. But it's that community, and it's that sense of purpose, and all of that is going to be given to you at a certain point will also be an opportunity for you to give back to it. And it's not necessarily unique to jiu-jitsu, but it is prevalent and 100% available. And if that was a way to put that in pill form and to give that to people when they walk into the gym, then dude, I would be handing that stuff out all day, because I'm with you. I see people that need that sense of community, need that sense of connection, need a sense to show more of the value that they provide to the world. And jiu-jitsu is an outlet for that. And I know how much it can change people's lives because it's changed mine. And I know it's changed yours. And dude, I'm with you, bro. I yes, Wes can teach you to do a wicked berimbolo as well. But that's not what it's about. And that's a heck of a way to freaking lead into the white belt question right there, bro. Yeah. But
it's something I wanted. I knew when we were talking, man, that I was going to get there one way or another, so I just kind of jumped into the question.
That's potent. But the life-changing attributes of it, though. I mean, that's it. I mean, all joking aside, man, it's a very serious piece of it, and it's not something that's easy to talk about, and it's not something that's easy to deliver to people as well. And it doesn't have to be as severe as what you described either. I mean, people need a sense of purpose. People need a community. People need mentors in their lives. People that didn't grow up with strong male mentors. James Faulkner was talking about that as well. Mm-hmm. He sees kids, teenagers that come into his class that look, their mom drops them off, and that's it. What they get out of James for the day is the male mentorship and leadership that they're going to have in their lives, man. What a responsibility that is.
I mean, I think that we're like hungry for that. I think that's why Jaka's so big, because you have any leadership. His whole thing's leadership. Yeah. You know, so we're hungry for that because it's hard. It's hard for I think about my mom, and she had to raise me to be a man, and she does her best, but fortunately you can find that other places, because just like I don't know what it's like to be a woman, my mom doesn't know what it's like to be a man. There's like different things. It's just different, and a lot of it is like silly and primal. Like we want to I think like fighting and being able to handle yourself, like there's like some deep down you feel like it's a way of providing value. It's almost like you're like proving yourself almost. I realized like when I was younger, I was like, man, why am I doing this? What am I doing? Like, and I still don't have a handle on it, but I think that there's some kind of primal thing like proving your worth. You know? And I don't know if everyone has a handle on that.
No, I would agree.
Also, when it comes to these suicides, it can happen at any age, but the majority of them happen in early 20s. So if they can Yeah, I mean, that's when the world, I mean, basically you're young and broke and confused and you have all this energy and hormones and testosterone, and that's all the violence that's done in the world is people that age, whether that's in war or crime or that energy is going to go somewhere. And so, like, does a jiu-jitsu tournament matter at all? No. But if we can just keep them distracted, give them a mission, give them something to prepare for, I think that it could, give someone direction while they figure it out. I think as you get older, you start stabilizing a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, if we can throw in some good mentors and the same jiu-jitsu guys that are taking you to things, say, hey, man, like, let's focus on your skills. Like, let's figure out how we're going to make some money, how we're going to provide, like, and then also, like, now, like, I mean, I don't have a family. Like, I'm not married, but I want all those things. And the fact that we have so many family guys. Like, look at Formiga with his family. Yeah, and he's still living that lifestyle. It's not like he had to sacrifice it. And, like, I would have to see that. If I didn't see that, I wouldn't even know it's possible. Right. Because so many people just kind of resign to the standard, like, modern marriage where they're almost isolated. Yeah. You know what I mean? And, like, that I just think it's going to come around. And that's what I would say about that.
We see like all of the issues that you've just brought up. We see it in the veteran community all the time, man. I mean, like, there's a huge initiative that is still underway, but I mean, it was very prevalent a couple of years ago. It's called 22 Kill, and I don't know if the statistics are still relevant or not, but it was a by minute statistic of veteran suicides. And so there was a lot of, like, social media campaigns to raise awareness and whatnot, where people would do push-ups for, days or whatever, to help support this. But I mean, it impacted me personally as well. And when I think back to it, man, I thought a lot about it back then. I haven't thought about it as much recently, and I probably should. And it's nice to, kind of have a chance to memorialize that a little bit, I suppose. But horrors of combat, not horrors of combat, that's going to affect people differently. But one thing that I think everybody would be affected by is just the change in tempo and the change of utility in their life. And so one thing that I saw with everybody that came out of that type of environment is that they went from being this incredibly useful human being that had a purpose, that showed up every single day for something and was necessary and was useful and valuable and, called to arms essentially. And then you suddenly come back into this society and first of all, you have to sort of, commingle yourself with a society, which can be a challenge for some people. And for some people, it's no big deal. They just get right back at it. But in all cases, man, you lost all of that worth. And until something replaces it, there's a vacuum in your life. And sometimes that vacuum just creates too much darkness, and it creates a hill that can't be surmounted. And I guess kind of piling on the message that you just gave, I know that jiu-jitsu can help fill some of that void. I can't speak for everybody, but I know that it can help fill some of that void. And so so if you need that in your life, then I suppose the message that we're kind of getting out here is that we are two people that I suppose are living proof that it can be there for you in a lot of different ways other than the skill set. And that's all I got to say about that.
Cool, man.
All right. Lighter topic, I suppose. We covered so much already, and we do need to kind of get to the end of this. We're a couple hours in. Once again, I mean, we talked about this. God, try to set a different time limit on it, and it just inevitably ends up going to the mark. But you've sort of illuminated the light a little bit on some of the plans that you've got for the future. You're entering into this new phase of your own jiu-jitsu career where, like I said before, I mean, you're not tasked with the burden of leadership, I suppose, and the responsibility of leadership to lead a gym, to have people that you're in charge of, essentially, mentor their training, whatever those training goals might be. What's next for you, man? You've been a black belt now for 3 or 4 years. You've got a few stripes or a stripe, and I mean, you're known as a leader since I've known you anyway. I mean, I know different people knew you earlier on, but I've never known you as anything other than sort of a tip of the spear black belt in our gym. What else do you got cooking in the background?
On the jiu-jitsu front, obviously coaching. That's the newest thing that taking most of my attention. But I think that that's going to make me a better athlete in general, because it just demands more. Like my schedule is really tight. Like I said, I have a couple jobs already. I'm balancing a lot of things, and I still want to make it to HQ every day to train and learn from Formiga, and then teach at night. And I'm looking forward to leading from the front. I'm going to do as many competitions as I can do. So we're going to start with Nashville coming up on the 22nd.
No kidding.
So I guess that'll be about a week after this is out.
Okay.
Then we got Denver May 5th.
Going to Denver?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to Denver.
And then we have, you're competing in Denver?
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Remember the Easton connection I told you about?
Right. We did talk about that. Perfect. And then Houston's the following week.
Mm-hmm.
And then Masters Worlds. That's the only thing on the calendar so far, but I'm sure we'll do another fight to win. And if anybody else wants to do anything, I'd like to hear about it so I can jump on. Maybe
Nice,
split
man.
some hotel rooms or something.
I love it.
So that's it, man.
I love it. That's a pretty full docket, man. How do we close things out?
I got it. I want to read something. So this is written by this neuroscientist named Sam Harris. He's pretty famous. A lot of people have probably heard about him. I don't really care about his other books and stuff, but he practiced Jiu Jitsu for a amount of time, and I think that his summary of what it is, like, because he's a skilled writer and not very many of us are too smart. So, but I think this is what most Jiu Jitsu guys would agree with these words, at least. Okay, so he says, I can now attest that the experience of grappling with an expert is akin to falling into deep water without knowing how to swim. You will make a furious effort to stay afloat, and you will fail. Once you learn how to swim, however, it becomes difficult to see what the problem is. Why can't a drowning man just relax and tread water? The same inscrutable difference between lethal ignorance and life-saving knowledge can be found on the mat. To train in jiu-jitsu is to continually drown, or rather to be drowned, in sudden and ingenious ways, and be taught again and again how to swim.
I love it, man. To be continually drowned and taught again and again how to swim. It's a heck of a way to close it out. And if the dark spots in your life have created some kind of a void and you need somebody to talk to, then I know Wes would be a good person, and I certainly would be a good person as well. Spread that message in jiu-jitsu, because I do think that what Zach hit on is something that we don't talk enough about in the jiu-jitsu community, because we do have somewhat of a superpower, because what we have to offer is something that, while it may or may not be unique, I can't talk to some of the extracurricular stuff, I know it's there for us in spades. And having the solution to a problem and not sharing it with the world is just straight up negligent. And until next time, those deep, dark waters where we're continually drowning and continually relearning how to swim, they're there for us all. We are out.